She was greatly loved and now much missed. But the legacy of Diana, the Princess of Wales, has turned bittersweet for her brother, the Earl Spencer. The man famed for the passion and venom of his eulogy at Diana's funeral now finds his life almost totally consumed by her. He has become defender of her reputation, the public face of some of her charities, and curator of her museum. But he is the first to admit that without the princess's allure and magic, his ancient and noble family could well be struggling to survive. In the breathtakingly beautiful countryside of Northamptonshire, Altrop, with its 120 rooms and hundreds of outbuildings, is the grand ancestral home of Diana and of 500 years of other Spencers who built it into a seat of power and wealth and privilege.
But what I'm really proud about is that they got there really by good, solid farming. That was the launching pad for them. And then they became rich through their own hard work. It wasn't like a lot of title families in England descend from royal bastards or whatever.
Unhappily, it's fallen to Charles, the 9th Earl Spencer, to head this family and preside over this house in a time of faded glory, relatively speaking anyway.
We own 180 houses around here, and they need maintenance, etc. And 1,000 buildings and all, if you take all the stables and everything into consideration.
How big are we talking here?
13,000 acres, yes. 500 acres in the park, and then 12,500 acres of agricultural land outside. I mean, it's on public record that it costs about, well, it's over $1 million Australian dollars a year to look after this place, with the overheads. And that's fine, I've got to find it, and I will.
And you do?
And I do. Well, this was in the old house. The house has been here 500 years. This was the original courtyard, but we filled it in, and actually all the characters from the book are really around the top part. Yes, that's brand new. I just had that done.
Alongside Charles is Diana's portrait. It's she in death who's turned Altrop into one of Britain's top tourist attractions and helped her brother promote the entire Spencer family history. You said you often wondered what it would be like if Diana's marriage hadn't taken place.
Well, I even said in the book, my book wouldn't have sold so well. I mean, that's a definite fact. And you wouldn't be interviewing me now.
You did say in the book that you felt a bit player in a soap opera once Diana had married into the royal family.
I suppose, in retrospect, it was always going to be the case that truth was going to be sacrificed to a soap opera script, and my family was going to be forced to fit into that image, I suppose.
Is it hard to relate to that woman whom you would see in a magazine or a newspaper, your sister, the icon?
Well, I suppose I was so young when it all started. I was 16, 17, that all my adult life I've been used to it. And, you know, it is strange. I remember in the early days I was always terrified that she was going to be killed by terrorists or whatever.
Instead, as we now all know, the princess died in that Paris car crash, alongside her new boyfriend, Dodi Al-Fayed. Most of us accept that Diana and Dodi were the victims of their driver's drunkenness. What's frustrating for Charles Spencer is that others, like Dodi's father, Mohammed, can't and won't accept the official findings.
They've been murdered. Dodi and Diana been murdered, definitely. I am the father who knows everything.
Does Mohammed Al-Fayed and his activities affect you at all?
Whatever he chooses to do is his business. I'm not really interested.
You're not annoyed at all by how he behaves?
I think the world can make its own judgment of how he behaves.
Do you believe that Diana was going to marry Dodi?
No, absolutely not. None of my family do. I mean, she'd been with him on 17 days or something, a total of 17 days, and she's having a nice summer romance, and that was that, really.
No one will ever know the truth. It went with Dodi and Diana. But 2.5 years on, the speculation, the theories and the rumours continue. Charles Spencer wants none of that. He's a man who craves privacy. But he realises that after the events of August 1997, that luxury has probably gone forever.
But I was in South Africa when Diana died, and I flew back the night after it happened. And I was in a bit of a state, really, because, you know, because of the shock, and I was in tears and all that. And so I tried to focus on the practicalities of what was coming up, and I thought about the funeral service. And I was trying to find somebody to speak, and I was going through my address book, and I went from A to Z, and there was just no one there. And then I had this absolutely chilling realisation that I was going to have to do it.
As a world obsessed by her life went into a frenzy over her death, Charles Spencer was quietly coming to terms with his own grief and the part in history he was about to carve for himself at his sister's funeral.
I was trying to write the speech on the Tuesday night between Diana's death and her funeral, and absolutely nothing was coming at all. And then I woke up at 4:30 and I thought, right, okay, let's give it a go. And then I finished it by 6 and didn't change it. And that's what went out.
I stand before you today, the representative of a family in grief, in a country in mourning, before a world in shock.
People said, God, you look so hard when you were delivering it, whatever. Well, it was just really trying to keep everything together. And
I didn't feel you looked hard at all.
well, I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't know.
You really haven't?
No.
Don't want to?
Well, it's pointless, isn't it? It's done, you know. It wasn't some sort of performance. It was a speech at a sister's funeral, and frankly, I wouldn't want to see any of the funeral.
She would want us today to pledge ourselves to protecting her beloved boys, William and Harry, from a similar fate. On behalf of your mother and sisters, I pledge that we, your blood family, will do all we can to continue the imaginative and loving way in which you are steering these two exceptional young men, so that their souls are not simply immersed by duty and tradition, but can sing openly as you planned.
The worst part was walking behind the gun carriage. That's far worse than the speech, and it's something that I really think it was ghastly, and it's nightmarish, really. The bell going every minute.
It was desperately hard for so many people around the world. I can't imagine what it was like for you.
Well, what was so difficult was that you couldn't look left or right, but you could feel this emotion on both sides, and it would break down occasionally. You'd walk for a few hundred metres in silence, and then suddenly someone would start wailing or screaming or whatever, and it was a sort of psychological torture of the worst kind, really.
Sadly, Diana's funeral was probably the making of Charles Spencer. He stayed composed while outraged at the circumstances of his sister's death and furious at the royal family's handling of it. It brought out a streak of independence in him that would have made even his sister proud.
I think if you speak honestly in public these days, it's so rare that people notice it. You know, those are aspects of Australian and South African life, where I've lived quite a lot in the past few years, that I really like, is that you can be straight talking, and it's not so easy over here.
Do you find that perhaps since Diana's death, the relevance of the royal family has changed? I've
really no idea. I can't really answer that.
In that she, in our opinion, humanised the royal family. The human aspect of the royal family.
I honestly can't answer that. I really haven't got any thoughts on it. That's why I'm not avoiding the question.
No, that's quite okay. Rather than talk about the Windsors, the 9th Earl was more intent on talking about his family, the Spencers, and the book he's just written about them. In the 500 years the family's been at Altrop, they've been an odd mix of high achievers and rogues. So you had a mad, bad, odd, eccentric, weird, wacko family who were just like every other family.
I think that's the thing. Just because you're born into money or title or whatever doesn't mean you're going to be born with virtue. And that's fantastic. That's something to be celebrated. So now we're going to the, it's called the Long Gallery. And when I was a tour guide as a boy, it was always a big moment bringing people in here, because it's almost impossible to come in here without catching your breath, because it's so dramatic.
This is long.
Yeah.
I'll grant you that.
Well, it used to be used for exercise, and in the olden days, the ladies used to wear these very long dresses, And so instead of going outside in this English climate and getting them wet in the mud and the water, they would come and walk up and down here 20 times, and that would be a mile.
The Spencer family records go back to 1066, to an ancestor who fought alongside William the Conqueror. In between, there's been a corrupt Prime Minister, Robert Spencer, Sarah Marlborough, so rich she lent money to the Bank of England, and John Charles Spencer, so indebted by his father's excesses he had to start selling off the family farm.
And he thought, well, I'll sell these 3 little villages off. And they are Battersea, Wandsworth and Wimbledon, now parts of central London. But before, when he sold them, they were little hamlets out in the middle of nowhere. 5 years later, they were part of Greater London.
Did that pinprick you at all? Did you
It's
think...
slightly upsetting, but not as much as my grandfather selling the only Holbein of Henry VIII, which he sold in the 20s for £10,000, and I believe it's worth 50 million American dollars now. But there we go.
Lest you begin feeling sorry for his lordship, it should be noted the family has managed to keep more than a few masterpieces.
Yeah. This is War and Peace by Van Dyck.
And Charles Spencer does get to live in rare and elegant style, while only having to open his doors 60 days a year to the paying public. And now, and for the foreseeable future, there's the Diana Museum to keep the public happy. It's set up in the old stables and attracts 3,000 visitors a day who also come to see the island where Diana is buried. Earl Spencer is determined to keep her memory alive.
I've just been in Zimbabwe opening a wildlife orphanage which has been named after my sister, and last month I was in Albania opening a library that was for the children there or whatever. But it's not that side of things. I'm not seeking in any way to take on Diana's work, but where people are genuinely and sincerely honouring her life's work, then it would be churlish not to go and say thank you on her behalf.
And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will.
Above all, we give thanks for the life of a woman. I'm so proud to be able to call my sister the unique, the complex, the extraordinary and irreplaceable Diana.
Loveliness we've lost, those empty days without your smile, this torch we'll always carry.
Today, school children study Charles Spencer's eulogy for English exams. That gives him no great joy. The speech and now his custodianship of the Di memory are to him simply a matter of duty.
The important thing is for me to know what I'm about and to be able to respect myself when I shave in the mirror in the morning, you know. And I can do that. I mean, I've never compromised myself, and everything I hope I've said publicly I've meant. So there it is, and I stand by every word, and that's that really.
The Queen and I go back a long way. Not that I'm suggesting any improper familiarity here. For me, she's always been a remote figure, dating back to the days when as a schoolboy I was dragooned into swelling the numbers along the Royal Motorcade route. On this, her 13th visit to Australia, I did get a little closer, but I also had the feeling that she was even more remote than ever. That despite the result of the referendum on the Republic, royalty and royal tours are much more about our past than they are about our future. But, I hasten to add, there's one place I wouldn't even dare think those kind of thoughts.
Okay, we're about to run the Queen Elizabeth Stakes, as would have been seen by Her Majesty the Queen had she turned up today. Unfortunately, she was unable to, so we'll run it without her presence. On your mark, get set.
The Queen never made it to Coolabah, though for a while Coolabah really believed that she would.
We'd planned a full carnival day. It would have been a full 7-race event with the Queen Elizabeth Stakes, the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen Mother. We would have included the race for the Queen Mother as well.
Normally, Coolabah in outback Western New South Wales, a stone's throw from Bourke, is a quiet place. Just a pub, a couple of shops and a few houses. With a population of only 73, they could hardly have expected a royal visit, except that this is Her Majesty's most loyal town, not just in Australia, but probably in the whole Commonwealth. Simple arithmetic tells us that somewhere out there among the Coolabah trees there lurk 4 Republicans, but this week they were nowhere to be seen. Town organiser Cole Watson.
The smallest Republican contingency in Australia, where are they?
Well, I heard someone said today they don't know, but we do know. And
You know their names.
We know the 4 of them, and there's not one of them here today.
Charles, would you like a gem scone?
Yes, I would, thank you.
The Republican referendum was fought and lost on the broad verandas of country Australia. A landscape of scones and tea with 2 sugars and no Republic please. Mrs. Anita McAlpine and Mrs. Mari Norris, a long-time residents of Coolabah.
I'd have to assume from the referendum result that Coolabah is the most loyal town in the whole of Australia.
Yes, that's right.
Does that make you feel pleased?
We've got something to be proud about, haven't we?
You're proud of that?
Oh, definitely, yes,
yeah.
my word.
I think it's a terrific achievement, really.
Well, we grew up in an era when the royal family was very prominent in our lives.
It's the 3rd of February, 1954. There'll be no work done today in Sydney. 1 million of us are on the move, swarming into the streets like bees in the sun.
For hours, everybody just deserted their offices and went down. They climbed trees and they hung out of windows and they climbed up on high stairs, wherever they could get a vantage point. And they stood there for hours and hours. The crowds were massive.
And here they are at last, amongst us, moving in triumphal progress through each city in its turn.
A time when a beautiful young queen journeyed from a distant motherland to her loyal dominion.
Everybody just cheered. I don't think there was anyone against the Queen in those days.
We in the British press have actually been interviewing these people with their memories of the 1950s. And there are 2 characteristics. One, enormous fondness and nostalgia for that magical time, but puzzlement that this younger generation they brought just don't share the magic at all.
No writer, journalist or author knows the workings of the palace better than Robert Lacey. The Queen's biographer has an intimate knowledge of the politics behind the throne and of the royal apprehension about last year's referendum.
The palace's expectation was that the monarchy was going to lose and that this trip would be very much by way of a requiem. And actually, when one thinks about it, it might have been more satisfactory as that. I think there's been a very wistful tone to all the proceedings.
There was no wistfulness among the monarchists when the Queen visited Sydney. But then, when their leader, Kerry Jones, this was a moment of public triumph.
It's a wonderful thing to have this visit and the opportunity to celebrate a very resounding no vote last November.
At the Sydney Opera House, as Jones talked up the monarchy,
It's a victory welcome for us in many ways.
far away was her arch-rival, Mark Day, a former director of the Australian Republican movement and now covering the story for the Daily Telegraph.
Why can't we have our own head of state? I mean, what's wrong with that? Aspiring for that? What's wrong with it?
Some Republicans will take this as an opportunity to reignite the argument, to once again say, this is a foreign monarch, this is an English woman, she has nothing to do with us.
Well, I'd say to those people, it's only 3 months out from the vote. It was a resounding no vote. Accept the umpire's decision, tolerance, a fair go, and enjoy the visit.
Kerry Jones reckons it's time to accept the umpire's decision.
We have. We lost. But so what? I mean, we'll come again. If you look at the whole history of Australia, it's built on glorious failures, isn't it? But, you know, I think next time round, Australia will do it because it just makes so much sense.
The Republicans were definitely in a minority in the pouring rain at Sydney's Opera House this week, when 7,000 of their loyal subjects greeted their monarch. Drenched to the bone, I saw it all across a sea of umbrellas, courtesy of Japanese technology and an English journalist, Charles Ray, of the London Sun.
You see her, Charlie?
Yeah, I can just see the back over there, walking away.
Then, almost before we knew it, she was gone. We were on hot but wet pursuit across the grey waters of Sydney Harbour.
What will you be writing about the weather, Charlie?
That the Queen reigned in Australia.
Ah, right. Always on the job, eh?
Always.
The Queen was on her way to Darling Harbour to deliver probably the most important message of her visit.
I have always made it clear that the future of the monarchy in Australia is an issue for you, the Australian people, and you alone to decide by democratic and constitutional means. It should not be otherwise.
The Queen finally had a chance in Sydney to make the campaign speech she would have made if she'd been allowed to come before the referendum, and to say simply, look, the constitutional monarchy is a popular institution. It exists to do your bidding.
Hands up if you're very excited about going to the Queen.
Back in Coolabah, they were having their own constitutional discussions. The children were being primed.
Okay, and 92% of people who voted in the Coolabah area voted for the monarchy. And that's pretty amazing, isn't it? That's a lot.
Or if the Queen couldn't come to Coolabah, Coolabah was going to her.
The Coolabah district did write a letter to Buckingham Palace inviting her to come and visit Coolabah. And of course she wasn't able to fit that into the itinerary, so that's why we're going to Burke to see her. Well, I think I'll wear this blue suit because I think the Queen loves blue.
They tried on their dresses.
Do you like this, boys?
Yes.
Suitable to see the Queen? Terrific.
And they practiced their curtsies.
Practice. I think it's the right foot behind the left, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all.
How do you do, Your Majesty?
And they made their men bow.
How do you do? How do you do?
You're going to speak? Okay.
You're concentrating too hard on the bowing.
Could the Queen ever fully know the loyalty of these Australian subjects?
You've got it. No, Harold, but come on. Oh, she won't curtsy. She won't do anything.
It might seem strange, but actually the further away she goes from somewhere like Sydney, right to the local people on the farms, the more people from Coolabah she can meet, the happier she is, because at the end of the day, constitutional monarchy is the monarch shaking hands with folks from Coolabah.
Long live our noble Queen, God save our Queen.
Do you expect to actually meet the Queen?
I think so, yes. I believe there's an area cordoned off for us, and I believe she's coming down from the dais over to where the Coolabah group will be.
You two will be beside yourselves. If you
Maybe
get to meet the
we'll
Queen.
judge from that just how strong her sentiments are.
Yes.
Yes.
About us being such loyalists.
We have seen her
If she
before.
comes along and
Yeah.
spends some time with us and really shakes hands,
Yes.
we'll think, oh, well, she really appreciates.
Yes.
We'd just like to run through some of the protocol arrangements for today.
Early morning Thursday, in the entire population of Coolabah, less those absent 4 Republican voters, musters outside the pub.
You'll address her, Your Majesty, the first time. If she continues with the conversation, ma'am would be the appropriate words.
They're off to Burke to see the Queen.
God save our gracious Queen.
The lawns are being cut and the garden beds turned as the town of Burke in the New South Wales far west counts down the remaining hours until the Queen's arrival today. Melanie
I've been starting to get a bit worried with all the preparations and excitement that maybe something goes wrong and she goes straight past.
She might too. That could happen if she runs out of time or if it's pouring rain. So we just hope that it's not raining for Her Majesty anyway.
And most grateful for your invitation, Prince Philip and Camille, to visit Burke.
While the Queen spoke to the people of Burke, Mrs. Mack and Mrs. Norris waited anxiously. In a moment she would make her way on one of her walkabouts. Would she walk to them, the royal contingent from Coolabah? The walkabout started badly. Even for a cynical journalist, it was a terrifying moment. She went to the wrong side. All the hopes and plans would come to nothing. The Queen would pass them by, unnoticed. Then Mrs. Norris saves the day.
Wayne, bring her over here to Coolabah.
She knows Wayne O'Malley, the Mayor of Burke, and draws his attention to the crowd from Coolabah.
Your Majesty, welcome to Australia, welcome to Burke.
Come especially.
Oh, we certainly can.
Thank you for your invitation for us to join you once again from Coolabah.
And we were the town in New South Wales that voted for the monarchy. Exactly, thank you very much. Thank you.
We have 2 more presentations from the Coolabah residents.
It all lasted less than a minute. An encounter the Queen will never remember, but which they will never forget.
It was also rather hurried.
It was hurried.
She's just wonderful.
What we're dealing here with, I think, is the cult of celebrity. And this one, Elizabeth II, has been an extraordinarily good celebrity. And people are fascinated by everything she is and everything she represents. And so am I. But Charles, she does not represent the future of this great land.
Having sniffed the air here, do you think the monarchy in Australia will survive beyond the present Queen?
I don't think the monarchy in Australia will survive beyond the present Queen, and I think one of her functions in coming out here and the speech she made was to tell Australia just that, don't get hung up. One of her favourite jokes is that when the time comes for us to go, we'll go quietly.
With a story like this, it's hard to avoid the phrase fairy tale romance. After all, it is set in the land of Hans Christian Andersen. And then there's the plot, the handsome prince and the commoner. They meet by accident, fall in love, and the next thing you know, Mary Donaldson from Tasmania is engaged to marry the future King of Denmark. What's more, his loyal subjects are wild about her, this unassuming Australian they've adopted as their own. But what's she really like? Well, Tara Brown was invited to the palace for a private audience with this very private royal bride-to-be.
It's truly an extraordinary moment in a young woman's life. The commoner from down under and the Crown Prince, on their way to becoming the next King and Queen of Denmark.
It was wow. The sight looking out over the balcony was extremely beautiful. The mix of Danish and Australian flags was a very nice feeling.
What do you think of an Australian girl stealing the heart of Denmark's Crown Prince?
I think it's okay.
It's okay.
We wouldn't have a chance anyway.
We're kind of disappointed that it's not us.
Yeah,
anyway, it's okay.
we have to live with it.
The Danes simply can't get enough of Mary Donaldson and her handsome Prince Frederick. Thousands of people turned out to celebrate their engagement before they were taken away to meet the media for the first time.
He's one of those people to be around, makes you happy and glad. His intelligence and his kindness, and he's quite funny as well.
This unlikely love story started 3 years ago. The dashing prince was in Sydney for the Olympics. The young real estate agent was swept off her feet.
The first time that we met, or shook hands. I did not know he was the Crown Prince of Denmark. It was perhaps half an hour or so later that someone came up to me and said, "Do you know who these people are?" And I said, "No," and then we found out.
Because I wasn't.
I will fulfill the role in a way that is particular to me, and that all I can do is work hard and do my best, and for some that will be good enough and for some it won't.
Bring a bit of Aussie flavour to it.
A little Aussie twist.
This is the Young Mary's Playground, Sandy Bay, one of the more beautiful suburbs of Hobart, but without a doubt still a world away from Denmark. The girl who would grow up to be a princess and one day queen went to the local infants school here, and like any other regular teenager, the state high school.
Wouldn't it be funny if you were Prince Charming and you married Mary?
Here at her old infant school, busy fingers are hard at work. They're making a good luck card for us to give to the young princess-to-be, along with an enlightened question.
Did the boy ask the girl to marry or did the girl ask the boy to marry or what happened?
I bring you a card today from the children of Sandy Bay Infant School. And this is you in the middle here.
Is it?
Yes.
That is so sweet.
And you know,
It's got little things.
No.
You can open.
The children were intrigued to know who proposed. I promised them I'd ask you.
Well, in the
traditional
way is the man has to do that, and then as I sort of insinuated a bit in the big conference that it didn't vary much from the traditional way of.
Was it romantic?
Yes, it definitely was.
Prince Frederik is known in Denmark as the Turbo Prince for his fast life and flashy girlfriends.
Everybody's been wondering who it was going to be, because he's been around.
Lottie Freddy is a columnist in Copenhagen.
He's extremely popular. He's like a rock star in Denmark. I think it's the first time ever there's been a royal person that has captured the hearts of all the young girls. You know, they think he's so great.
How was your prince doing today, Mary?
Thank you. Not as well as I was going through.
Frederik has chosen a bride whose discretion has endeared her to the royal family. A kiss in January this year, the first public confirmation they were a couple after 2 years of courting.
The thing is, people don't know what she's like, really, except that she looks nice and she behaves well, and she's quite lovely. And obviously she must be nice since the Crown Prince picks her.
Many people ask, how did you steal the heart of the most eligible bachelor in the world?
That's a question for...
How did she do it?
I think it's... I want to say that my first visit to Australia ever was 2 days old, and that's where we sort of...
First met,
and... I think it's one of those where we just slowly, a relationship where we just slowly got closer and closer to each other despite the geographical distance. And that was just some good sort of vibe or
good
connection and fun and happiness and slowly but surely love as well came into it.
So has the girl from Tasmania tamed the Turbo Prince?
In a certain way, yes.
Now, I know he's a prince and all, but how did he steal your heart?
As pretty much the same as he said. We first met, and from the very first moment that we started talking, we never really stopped talking. And that was also part of our geographical distance. Everything was through words, and so we really established a really strong relationship to begin with.
Nowhere is their romance more fitting than Denmark, the land of fairy tales, thanks to Hans Christian Andersen, and the oldest monarchy in the world. To enter it easily, Mary must impress this fiercely loyal nation that she wants to be Danish.
She obviously has to speak Danish, and the poor thing, it's a terrible language to learn. And so people, all of them are going to sit there and listen to how she's going to sound.
Jeg har læst, at jeg taler flydende dansk. Tak fordi, men desværre passer det ikke helt.
Mary, I felt for you today when you were sitting in that press conference. How nervous were you knowing that the nation was watching you to see how well you spoke Danish?
That was definitely a big nerve factor, yes. But the people around me said, I mean, today obviously I spoke perhaps the worst Danish I speak. It's hard to understand what people are saying when there's so much going on. But I felt that what was important today was for me to, first of all, express a bit about the person who I am, and my Danish is not strong enough to do that. So my strategy was to answer what I could and then be more myself in English, rather than clumsily finding my way in Danish.
The morning after her big day, and Mary has certainly been given the thumbs up by this country's media. On the front page of some of the newspapers, saved by Mary. And this one, thank you, my darling, but also, Mary, you're born to it. And then the most important test of all, her Danish skills. Well, this newspaper has given her 10 out of 10. In this country, Mary can do no wrong. And when he and Mary marry, where will they live?
They will live here. In this palace.
Marita Wilkenschild is an author and journalist who's been on Denmark's royal beat for the last 20 years. What is the greatest expectation of Mary now?
That she produces an heir. And you know, it's awful to say, and I almost feel ashamed when I say it, but that is a fact. That's the whole idea with the monarchy. So there will be a big pressure on her to get pregnant. And hopefully she will. Crown Prince has said many times that he wants a lot of children.
Now, I know you two aren't even married yet, but everyone's talking about children.
Yes.
Oh, what are
they
the
were
plans?
talking about our wedding well before then as well. There's an advancement. When we have to wait and see.
But they're definitely planned.
Not planned, but they're definitely there, somewhere in the ether.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're living a fairy tale?
Today, yes. Although, you know, it's sort of been such a gradual thing that it's hard to say that exactly that I'm living a fairy tale, because at times it's quite daunting, and there's times that it's been times months and months ago that it's been quite hard.
For the girl who claims she never wanted to grow up to be a princess,
I wished I would be a vet. A
vet! Mary Donaldson seems born to handle the stresses and scrutiny of royal life, from Princess Bride to Queen Mary of Denmark.
To that I can say, of course I will always have emotional ties to Australia. Australia forms part of my identity and who I am. But my future does lie in Denmark, and I look very much forward to my future here. But Australia will never be forgotten to me. And luckily, Frederick also loves Australia. So I'm sure we will have many happy times there.
I'd love to promise that in the next 12 minutes or so we won't utter the words fairy tale romance. Sadly, I can't, because there really is something magical about Mary and her royal wedding, something special, enough to bring out a touch of the romantic, the royalist, in all of us. Here's Tara Brown in Copenhagen.
for a tiny country like Denmark, it doesn't get much bigger than this. You could almost hear a national sigh of relief. He's finally done it. Their favourite son, Crown Prince Frederick, has finally tied the knot. It's hard to describe how ecstatic they are here. You probably have to be here to feel the love they have for these royal newlyweds. And it's pretty exciting for us too. By marrying into the oldest monarchy in the world, Mary Donaldson from Tasmania is our very own royal, the next Queen of Denmark. The anticipation, the months of planning, the final touches. The wedding day is momentous in any young bride's life. For Mary Donaldson, it's life-changing. With this, she transforms from girlfriend to wife, from Australian commoner to Danish princess.
I faderens og søndens og helligåndens navn. Amen.
I think everyone who meets Frederick sees something special in him. And I've definitely seen that special something as well. And it's his warmth. He has a very kind heart. He's charming, he's courageous. He makes a good whole.
For Denmark, they are the ultimate couple. And ever since their love affair began, the Danes have been bedazzled by Mary.
It's almost Hans Christian Andersen. I mean, an ordinary girl, if I may say so, picked up by the prince, brought into the castle, had this huge makeover process going on her. Now everybody's talking about she learned the wave. She finally caught on to the queenish wave. Now she does like this. When she got here, it was like, no, that's...
Like most here, royal commentator Mads Christensen has been transfixed by the making of Mary and her marriage to Prince Frederick.
In measuring in Danish meters, it's huge.
How huge?
I would compare it to the Danish equivalent of the lunar landing. It's big.
One day was never going to be enough to celebrate this royal wedding. And so for the last week, Mary and Frederick have shared their fairy tale with the nation. There have been parties and public appearances, and still it's not enough. The people of Denmark just want more. They can't get enough of this couple.
Go Mary!
It's been a week where Australia's been on show, and it began with a yacht race between us and the Danes. Mary, are you nervous today?
Nej, ikke i dag, fordi det skulle... Oh, sorry. It should be fun. So, above all, we should have a fun time and enjoy the day and have a relaxed time.
But I hear you've got a very competitive streak.
Yes, I have, and I did talk tactics last night. So...
Did you? A bit of pillow talk going on there?
No, not with him.
Pillow talk.
Table talk.
Table talk. Are you worried that Mary might have a winged keel?
Oh, yes. I don't know what hides underneath the water, basically.
So are you planning on being chivalrous?
To a certain extent, yes.
So if she wins...
Just before the start, basically.
So if she wins, does that mean you've let her win?
No.
No.
Okay. And that's the way it should be.
Netop helt sikker på. Jeg skal lige have den.
We won! We won!
It seems like the nation is more fascinated by Mary at the moment than Frederick.
We're used to him.
You're used to him?
No, he's in the shadow now. She's in the limelight, in the spotlight, definitely.
And why is that?
Because she's new and she's fresh and it finally happened. You know, we waited for it. I mean...
So picking up a girl in an Australian bar is okay?
It's a great idea.
Mary Donaldson is an account director at Love.
This is Mary as you would never have seen her.
Challenge the boundaries.
Ah! Good one.
4 years ago, and she's an ordinary working woman.
Dreamhead has a sense of strength about it, I find.
An account executive, and every inch the Australian.
See you guys.
See you And less than a month later, during the 2000 Sydney Olympics, Mary met her prince. Many people ask, how did you steal the heart of the most eligible bachelor in the world?
That's a question for...
How did she do it?
I think it's... I would say that my first visit to Australia ever was 2 days old, and that's where we sort of...
First met,
and I think it's one of those where we just slowly, a relationship where we just slowly got closer and closer to each other despite the geographical distance, and that was just some good sort of vibe or
good
connection and fun and happiness and slowly but surely love as well came into it.
Frederick had a reputation, that of the Turbo Prince, in love with fast cars and racy women. So has the girl from Tasmania tamed the Turbo Prince?
In a certain way, yes. And what about the Turbo Prince? Is he fully committed?
The Turbo Prince, I think he's fully committed as well. I mean, he could have been a glamorous playboy for another 10 years. Nobody would wrinkle their nose at it. So, I mean, he's not doing this because his mama says so. He's doing this because he wants to. I'm absolutely confident about it.
What are you doing? Altid han spiller med gear. Det lidt irriterende. Nej, det det ikke.
Back in Tasmania, they could be any young couple in love.
This is Frederick, who you probably know. And he'll be a wonderful addition to our family as well. And everyone already thinks a lot about him. And very welcome. And happy to be part of our family.
We'll drink to that.
Cheers.
But their love for one another is expected to reap both Australia and Denmark something a little less romantic.
One of humankind's great stories is that a couple fall in love and build something constructive. And part of that constructive building could be good things for Australia and Denmark economically.
As Governor of Tasmania, Richard Butler was invited to the wedding. He's also keen to sell Australia while he's here. So this perhaps is not just a marriage between Mary and Frederick, but a marriage of two nations.
It's starting to look a bit like that. Leaders, politicians and senior officials, I know, are seeing it as an opportunity. We in Tasmania are, there's no question.
So actually with the wine, you know the measures, we don't want to go too much. We don't want the royal family drunk tonight. No. Do they drink much? A little.
Sydney chef Luke Mangan was spicing up the wedding week with some homegrown flavour.
And that is all you want.
Okay.
No more than that. I need a plate wipe.
Supplying our freshest and finest food and wine for a dinner hosted by our Governor-General for the royal couple.
I want this one to go to Mary.
So who sussed you out? Who wanted you here?
Well, I used to date Mary.
We've been waiting for the boyfriend to come out.
Well, it's me, okay? You've got me.
Excuse me, Mary. May I ask, how did you enjoy your meal?
It was exquisite.
There's never been a better time to be an Australian in Denmark than now, absolutely. Just to see an Australian flag in flying in the street, it's almost, you almost choke up sometimes. It's just a little piece of home has just planted itself here. It's like, finally.
Like Mary, Alex and Deidre are Australians living in Copenhagen, married to Danes.
Especially with Mary now on the scene, people are like, wow, have you met her? What's it like?
It's
Aussie
that
girls,
fever
wow.
pitch now, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like World Cup, but with royalty. You know?
Do you feel like you're living a fairy tale?
Today, yes. Although, it's sort of been such a gradual thing that it's hard to say that exactly that I'm living a fairy tale, because at times it's quite daunting, and there's times that it's been times months and months ago that it's been quite hard.
Because you are marrying into what is considered the perfect royal family. How much pressure is there to be the perfect princess?
I think people... the perfect princess, what is the perfect princess? I don't know. But all I can say is that I will fulfill the role in a way that is particular to me, and that all I can do is work hard and do my best. And for some that will be good enough, and for some it won't.
You don't just put the diamonds on her in the dress and then she's the princess. She's been taught how to be a queen, how to play the part of a queen. I'm sure she has teachers bombarding her with information from morning till dawn. I mean, how to hold a glass, how to do the wave, how to put on shoes, how to say hello, how not to say hello, how to open presents, how to smile, how to... I think they're rehearsing everything. I think they're...
So do you think she married Frederick because he's a crown prince, or despite the fact he's a crown prince?
Definitely despite. I'd be disappointed if she did it because, and I think she would have been unmasked a long time ago if that was what it was just all about. I think that she's the real deal. I definitely do. I assume they must be a little nervous.
Yeah.
She's probably shaking.
Do you think so?
I think so. He's probably shaking too, it's a big step.
Whether in the streets or at home, the nation stopped to watch, and they couldn't help but be caught up in the emotion of this wedding.
Mary is moving straight into first division. I mean, she's going to be the high-profile character, and eventually, I don't know if we can say so on TV, but eventually I assume the Queen will die, and then Mary will be Queen. I mean, wow.
Well, they did it. Prince William and Kate Middleton are finally hitched for better or worse. The world now has a glamorous new princess to idolise, and the British monarchy has a fresh new face to represent it. It's been a big couple of days in London, and Michael Usher has been in the thick of it.
What an extraordinary day. In a year so dominated by overwhelmingly sad events, this is just a terrific celebration. It's London at its flag-waving best. But for all the grandeur and the ceremony and the crowds, you've got to remember, this is about a young couple getting married and starting a new life together.
It was the day a middle-class commoner from the tiny village of Bucklebury was transformed into the future queen. The world was invited to the fairy tale as Kate Middleton married her Prince Charming and became Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Cambridge.
It was a family occasion that 2 billion people participated in some weird way.
And like any family wedding, some relatives will always make a fashion faux pas.
Oh my God, where did she get that bloody hat? She looks ridiculous.
Along with royalty came the rock stars. Aristocrats rub shoulders with athletes. Prime ministers alongside publicans.
The way the Middletons and the royals have kind of merged, it tells the world that it's a good story and it's a good message, which is that humble works much better than haughty.
So that's really the story. It's not about...
Magazine editor Rachel Johnson is an expert on British aristocracy and monarchy.
It's a flag-waving sea of royalists we see before us.
It's been a good flag-waving day in London.
Yeah, as I said, it's not a good day for Republican anarchists, that's for sure.
And now the moment had come when Prince William arrived with brother Harry. The best man looking more nervous than the groom. They waited with the rest of the world for the arrival of the bride, who carried with her hopes of a fresh start for the British monarchy.
It shows a family that has healed. It survived death, and it survived multiple divorce, and it's having a kind of a renewal moment. I mean, this was a rebirth for them.
And really the start of a new generation for the royal family.
Sure, I mean, they're both happy and healthy and in love. And I think the Queen can look at this and think, at last, you know, I think the firm, as she calls it, the family, is kind of, it's set fair going forward.
But on this most regal occasion, the new generation didn't stray far from strict protocol and tradition. The one great surprise, a mystery to the very end, the dress. Catherine emerged to reveal an elegant creation from the house of Alexander McQueen by designer Sarah Burton.
She certainly did look hot. I mean, brides do on their wedding days, but princess brides look incandescent.
The world's fashion police have accused the designers of borrowing from another fairy tale, when Grace Kelly turned her back on Hollywood to become Princess of Monaco. But forget the comparisons, Kate made it all her own.
She was very calm.
Wasn't she?
Very classy.
Oh, and didn't we love the way she moved? I mean, she came down the aisle like a cherry blossom floating on a stream. And the fact that Prince William didn't look back and get an eyeful was classy.
That didn't stop Harry from stealing a glance and reporting back to his big brother.
It's as if she was born for that role. And, you know, she owned that whole ceremony.
No one could ever outshine this bride, but her sister Pippa came pretty close.
Pippa came behind her wearing a kind of knockout Alexander McQueen dress with apparently nothing underneath. So the eyes of the world were torn between these two gorgeous Middleton sisters.
And Harry and the other single men said hello.
Catherine Elizabeth, wilt thou have this man to thy wedded husband?
I will.
I pronounce that they be man and wife together.
Comparisons to that last great royal wedding 30 years ago were inevitable. But if Diana struggled under the spotlight, Kate seemed to love the attention of the adoring crowds.
Diana said when she married Prince Charles, it was like a lamb to the slaughter. You know, she was being cast into the lion's den of the royal family. But you just didn't get that feeling today.
An amazing journey for Catherine. She's now a Duchess, Her Royal Highness. And as she rolls into the palace, she already outranks many of the other royals who were born into this. They have to bow and curtsy to her.
Kate was just the consummate princess. She is going to be the people's princess. There's without question. We have a new one on the block, and she is it.
She's not born into this, but I tell you what, she's doing a pretty good job.
I've got to tell you, there's one thing you'd say about Kate Middleton today. Absolute class act. She's a princess.
Even a cynical paparazzi and dyed-in-the-wool Aussie Republican couldn't help but be charmed.
What are you doing here? You've got the full Union Jack going. Where's the Southern Cross?
No, the star's here.
Darren Lyons wasn't the only born-again monarchist. 1 million people had gathered outside Buckingham Palace to catch a glimpse of the happy couple.
So what do we think of this day?
It's beautiful. Loving it. Absolutely beautiful.
Did you get a wave in? Did you get to say hello to Catherine?
Oh yeah, I broke my flag waving so much.
You did it that strongly.
Actually, we were saying she reminded us of our Princess Mary a little bit.
There are some similarities, aren't there?
Yeah.
How's the day been?
Oh, it's been amazing. We camped out last night.
Did you?
It's been
Dedicated.
It's been a long night.
Yeah.
But it's been good fun. We had a good spot on the front.
And after the ceremony, there was one thing the whole crowd wanted.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for, the kiss on the balcony.
But when it came, it was too brief and too safe. The romantic crowd wanted a replay, and they got one.
The flyover, the kiss, they've sealed the deal.
And so begins the next chapter of the fairy tale, as Princess Catherine shoulders the burden of being the monarchy's newest media star.
Oh, that's sensational. God, he looks nervous. Doesn't William look so nervous in these pictures? And Kate just looks like absolute drop-dead amazing.
It's only been a few days and already her image is photographic gold.
Yeah, that's a beautiful shot.
That's magazine, page 1, good night.
From London to the smallest counties, they celebrate. Nowhere more so than at Kate's local pub in Bucklebury.
Cheers everyone, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge! I was in the front row.
Still in his morning suit, John Haley returned a conquering hero.
I saw you in the queue.
After sitting front row at the wedding.
When Kate and her dad come down, Kate looked at me and smiled, and that was just, it just sent tingles down my body. It was just fabulous. It was just something else.
After the pomp and ceremony were done, came a moment of fun from the royal newlyweds. A getaway in a classic convertible with an L plate, perhaps a nod to the uncharted road ahead.
But it's business time now for Catherine. She now has to work for the firm.
Yep, that's her job. That's her day job and her night job. Absolutely. And then it's going to be 600 mind-blowingly, balls-achingly boring events a year for her. You wouldn't wish it on your daughter.
Could you do it?
No way! No way! I couldn't do one.
It's a right royal extravaganza. At the end of this month, an estimated 3 billion people will tune in to see the commoner, Kate Middleton, exchange vows with Prince William, the heir to the British throne.
Theirs is the most anticipated union since Charles and Diana tied the knot 30 years ago. Of course, that didn't end so well, and for a while there, the monarchy teetered on the brink. The British royals desperately need this marriage to stick, and they're doing whatever it takes to protect their fairy tale couple. But watching Kate dodge the paparazzi, you can't help but get an uneasy feeling of déjà vu. There was no chance Prince William's girlfriend was ever going to avoid the spotlight. And for 8 years, Kate Middleton has lived a very public, though discreet, courtship. She's the girl who caught the prince's eye at university. Middle-class Kate, who's about to become a princess in the grandest of royal weddings.
Guys, come on, let's go.
Well, it's 3 billion people watching. I mean, it is rock star, superstar, absolutely royal supermodel. I mean, this girl is seriously getting herself into the single greatest shape of her life.
Darren Lyons is the king of paparazzi. He's photographed the best and worst of royal family moments for 20 years.
Can someone take it, please? Picture desk!
And in the lead up to the wedding day, Darren's doing his best to get candid pictures of the bride and groom.
All right, Kate!
He knows Kate, especially, sells magazines.
Giddy up.
She's the future queen, Darren.
Well, I'm a Republican. It's going to be an extravaganza. I mean, it's one thing the royals do incredibly well, the pomp, ceremony and glory of it all, but it's weddings and funerals. This is British, this is royal, this is what the world wait, watch and see. This is the biggest show on earth.
For Darren's paparazzi army, covering this wedding requires military-style strategy.
Our operation is going to mirror their operation. They'll release it at the 11th hour where Kate's going to be. So there's 4 venues. We're pretty sure we've got the right one.
For centuries, the royal family has relied on the upper classes, the aristocracy, to marry the future king and provide an heir to the throne. But on her wedding day, when commoner Kate becomes Princess Catherine and stands up there on the balcony of Buckingham Palace with her new in-laws, it really will be a changing of the guard, a new generation of royals.
It was a total shock when it came and very excited.
In this interview after their engagement, William and Kate gave a rare insight into their relationship.
I was quite nervous about meeting William's father, but no, he's very, very welcoming and very friendly. So yeah, it couldn't have gone easier really for me.
In 1 hour, she will go from being plain Kate Middleton to being a member of the royal family, Princess Catherine of Wales.
Could you have it in that colour?
Rachel Johnson is editor of The Lady magazine, a bible of society and style in Britain. Kate's story, she says, is a fascinating new chapter for the royal family.
She's a commoner. She comes from middle class stock, the great-granddaughter of a miner. She's educated exactly to the level of Prince William, and she's exactly his age. They've got exactly the same amount of romantic experience, and they have gone into this themselves.
She's certainly not an aristocrat, is she?
She's not. Both her parents worked in the airline industry, and then they started their own company, Party Pieces, which has somehow made a lot of money selling paper hats and crackers. Good for them.
Buckingham Palace is a world away from Bucklebury, the quintessential English village where Kate grew up.
All right, so this is it. There we go. That was it.
John Haley has a golden ticket, an invitation to the wedding. But he's not a royal, nor an aristocrat. He owns the local pub, which has suddenly become a landmark.
Esquire. Esquire. Don't even know what that means, but it must mean something special. And there's the invite. There we go.
Look at this. Wow. The Lord Chamberlain is commanded by the Queen to invite Mr. John Haley to the marriage. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing, absolutely amazing. I should keep that for the rest of my life.
John's known Kate since she was a little girl. Her family are regulars here at his Old Boot Inn. And when Kate began dating William, the couple started popping into the pub on dates.
All right, can you spill the beans? What did the future King and Queen of England order in here?
I think they had fish and chips once, which they really enjoyed because we have all fresh fish all the time. So, but yeah, just ordinary people will maybe have a glass of wine, nothing special, or beer or something. Yeah, so just like anybody else.
One day she'll be Queen, and she sat over here in your pub eating fish and chips.
And she'll be a good Queen, I'm sure. And he's very lucky, William, to have someone like Kate. She is a fabulous girl.
Rachel, shall we ride like royalty?
I mean, it's the fairy tale of our time.
Isn't it just? Any bride on their wedding day is nervous. Can you imagine how she's going to feel?
You know what? I'm not surprised the poor girl's getting so thin.
Rachel Johnson and I are playing Prince and Princess. This is the same model Rolls-Royce and the same route to Westminster Abbey that Kate and her father will take on the wedding day.
She's going to be Princess Catherine of Wales.
Arrives a commoner, leaves a princess.
Leaves a princess.
Westminster Abbey has been the stage for some of the royal family's most spectacular ceremonies. Glittering coronations, elaborate weddings, and sombre state funerals. So when Prince William exchanges vows with Kate Middleton, you can't help but think it might be a bittersweet occasion for him. William will leave this grand abbey with his princess. But it was here, as a heartbroken 15-year-old, he farewelled the most famous princess of them all, his mother, Diana.
The world has never seen a day of mourning like the funeral of Princess Diana in September 1997. Despite her tragic death, the comparisons between a young Diana and Kate have been too tantalising to ignore. And Kate even wears Diana's famous engagement ring.
I would love to have met her, and she's obviously she's an inspirational woman to look up to.
So it's about carving your own future. No one's going to try and no one's trying to fill my mother's shoes, and what she did is fantastic. It's about making your own future and your own destiny, and Kate will do a very good job of that.
It remains to be seen if Catherine's got this incredible charisma that Princess Diana had, that Hollywood high voltage wattage, that she could walk into a room and it was like, people were electrified by her. Whether Kate wants to do it that way, whether she wants to be a global icon, the biggest celebrity in the world, which is what happened to Diana.
She was a superstar.
She was a superstar, and my suspicion is that William and Kate have shown already that they're very discreet, and they have no interest in that because they saw how it ate their mother alive. That amount of attention and interest and pursuit on the part of the media made her life impossible and unreal.
It's been nearly 14 years since that Paris car crash. The royal family learned painful lessons from the way they handled Diana's life and death. And now, you get the sense that a lot of work is being done to protect Kate, teach her the royal ropes.
Well, they really need this marriage to work. They desperately need this marriage to work. They need it to be the love affair that actually does come true because they've had so many disasters.
It's obviously nerve-wracking because I don't know what I'm I don't know the ropes really. William was obviously used to it, but no, I'm willing to learn quickly and work hard. And
She'll do really well.
Yeah,
we'll do very well.
fact, unlike when Diana was alive, the royal family now hires lawyers to protect Kate's privacy. Many paparazzi shots are these days prevented from publication. Darren Lyons keeps them in a number of secret safes.
There's this of Kate, which is part of an incredible, beautiful set of pictures, which, as you can see, is just... It's an iconic image. It's an iconic image. It's an image of our time. It's history. Got to be careful.
These particular photos of a solo Kate in the Caribbean were suppressed in the United Kingdom by royal lawyers, deemed to be too intrusive.
What do you think of this photo? Oh, I think it's the greatest picture ever taken of Kate Middleton, and I think it will be the greatest picture ever taken of Kate Middleton. They don't want another Diana. I've seen her come onto the scene wanting desperately to become it at the start, but then all of a sudden it was like, boom, the face went from to... It was unbelievable. The change, the legal change in all of a sudden, oh my God, they panicked. They panicked about who we were going to see and how we were going to see her.
And just as it was on the day of Diana's marriage, the images the world now waits for are of Kate in her wedding dress. In London's fashionable Kensington, I visited Stuart Parvin, who's the Queen's official dressmaker.
Stuart, of all of these, which do you think Catherine might go for?
I mean, I think something like this, which is a very grand dress. It's unbelievably simple, but it's made of English brocade, and all the pattern sort of is matched as it's cut. It's very much the choice of sort of aristocratic girl, sort of which will go with an amazing piece of jewellery in the form of the tiara.
This would do well in the Abbey?
It would do.
Yeah. How much does it cost?
I couldn't possibly tell you.
How important is she to fashion in Britain?
I think she's going to become hugely important.
Will Catherine become a fashion icon?
I hope she will. I mean, she's got an amazing figure. She's a very beautiful girl. I think she has all the potential.
This is just amazing, Margaret.
There's a lot of stuff, I have to say.
Life-sized Dianas.
Yes.
Margaret Tyler is Britain's #1 royal fan.
I should have this one, you should have that
Here we
one,
go.
definitely.
How are you, Catherine?
Fine, thank you. Bit nervous, but fine.
Unbelievably, she has 40,000 pieces of royal memorabilia crammed into her London home.
What are these?
Oh, these are Charles and Diana slippers. I think they're rather sweet, actually.
In fact, the royal memorabilia makers can't churn it out fast enough for Margaret. Of all the family, she loved Diana the most. But now, she has Kate.
We think a lot of Catherine, actually. She wants to be known as Catherine. I think she is perfect for Prince William. It'll be so exciting. I don't think I'll get a wink of sleep the night before. I don't know about poor Catherine, but I don't think I will.
And let's face it, it's going to be a celebration, but it is certainly going to be the new royal family.
When the honeymoon's over, literally, Princess Catherine will be fair game as she takes on royal duties, including the expectation to produce an heir to the throne.
She's now got to be a princess. What's the job description? It's look beautiful at all times, never put a foot wrong, stand by your man, gaze adoringly up his nostril as he makes speeches. Would you want to do that? Would you want your daughter to do that?
It could be tough for the thoroughly modern young woman that she is.
It could be tough depending on your personality type, but clearly this is what she wants.
A few years back, the British royals were so unpopular they could do no right. Then came the wedding of William and Kate and the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. Now, with their recent trip to Australia, Prince Charles and Camilla proved the firm is more popular than ever, much to the chagrin of Republicans like me. what you might not have noticed while you were out fluttering your Union Jacks was that another royal had slipped into town. Zara Phillips, the Queen's eldest granddaughter and darling of the English horsey set, was on the Gold Coast, doing a little bit of, dare we say, commercial business. When you're Zara Phillips, daughter of Princess Anne, granddaughter of the Queen, and 14th in line to the throne, high heels or not, you're always walking on eggshells while trying to appear a good sport.
Hello. I'm Charles. I've heard all about you. Hi.
Uh-oh.
No, it's all been good. It's all been good. Not that you can believe anything you read in the papers.
No, exactly.
It's also wise to be on your guard. I mean, who can you trust? And my job is to stand around and watch you.
You can have a fun day.
That's a fairly painless duty.
That little bit of knee was good across the front. And
Zara had invited us to film her fashion shoot, a promotion for next year's Magic Millions horse racing carnival on the Gold Coast.
if you turn your head that way, yeah, perfect.
But as she worked, a sneaky member of the paparazzi was lurking in the bushes, sniffing out a scoop for the English tabloids and a nice little earner for himself. It's the sort of thing that gives honest journos a bad name, but for the UK tabloids, a gem of a story. Not only a fashion faux pas, but royal skin and a red bra strap had been exposed. Worse still, a flip-flop where the royal feet had been spotted in a pair of Aussie thongs.
Don't work too hard, boy.
But this kind of inane scrutiny is nothing new for Zara.
I'm really not comfortable in this outfit. British media are pretty tricky, but unfortunately you can't do anything about it.
They're very hard on you.
Yeah.
Elbows out towards me, hands a bit higher. Yeah, lovely. Ooh, look at
Zara Phillips copes best by saying less. She's no nonsense, a little shy, I suspect, and not particularly comfortable being glamorous. Now, are you just a natural, or do you have some background in modelling?
No. I'm not going to give up my day.
Don't give me a
Basically, it's you and a horse doing 3 different disciplines in one competition.
So it's a kind of Iron Man thing for horses.
Yeah, a little bit. A triathlon. You've got a dressage, which is the pretty bit, the ballet bit. After that, we do cross country, which is the fun bit, the fast bit, you know. We've got the show jumping at the end after you've done all that.
This is a rigorous sport where triumph and having your whole family there.
Yeah, for once.
Is
they
that
actually
good
come
or
and watch
bad?
me. You know, it's good. It's great that they can come and support you.
Shamelessly name drop for me, who was there to watch?
My cousins, brother and sister-in-law, my mum, my dad was there because he coaches the Americans.
He was for the other side.
Yeah, traitor.
Now go.
She makes it sound no more important than getting together for a Sunday barbecue. But in the stands, Zara's family include Prince William, Kate, Prince Harry, the Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice, Camilla, and, of course, Zara's mum, Princess Anne. And did she give you any advice?
No, she was just proud, and you know, I'm lucky that she's got a huge love for the game, and you know, for what horses do.
Before leaving, the princess stopped to thank the midwives and staff. Captain Phillips leant forward and gave his daughter a rather bemused smile.
No one has a home video collection like the royals. Zara was born in 1981, the only daughter to Princess Anne and her then-husband, Captain Mark Phillips.
We couldn't actually see, but it said the baby has wispy blonde hair.
Does it bite?
No, not yet. But it might after it's finished with you.
And although she's no princess,
Zara!
she's always had a privileged front row seat in the theatre of modern British history.
You met the puppy, didn't you, William?
For you and me, this existence might seem surreal, but maybe not if it's all you've ever known. And given that it's so quaintly old-fashioned, it kind of diffuses any Republican animosity.
God bless you. and a very happy Christmas to you all.
Does it surprise you that Australians, given that many of us, myself included, would put myself down as a Republican, that the monarchy on the other side of the world is so relatively popular here?
No, I think it's great. You know, obviously being part of a family, you know, people are so intrigued about you know, what goes on, and you know, it's a very different and public kind of family, so people want to know.
Sometimes you say they're just a family.
They are my family. I can't say it. I mean, like, people say that I get grumpy about it, but that's what they are to me. I know it sounds weird, but they are my family, and it's nothing. I can't say any different than that.
Now, despite the fact that you had some privilege in your childhood, your parents actually wanted a normal life for you.
We, you know, did everything what everyone else did. You know, went to school, and
you just went to the village school.
Initially, yeah. And they sent us away to boarding school.
And your mother decided that you wouldn't take the title.
Yes.
And in retrospect, is that a happy decision for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's great, you know.
Is that all the fun and none of the responsibility?
Yeah. You know, my brother and I have both been able to do the things we've done, and yeah, I think we're very lucky, and it's worked.
I should note that, unlike so many of the royal family, you are not on what the English call the civil list, that you're not paid by the government or the taxpayer, that you make your own
I'm paying
living.
the taxpayer.
You're a taxpayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're paying for the others.
He's a lovely man.
You don't mind paying for the rest of the family as a taxpayer? But you make your money yourself, so you're a business.
I ride all my horses, but I ride for people and have sponsors, so, you know, that's the way I try and make my business work.
It's a winning combination. Modern, non-royal royal, and a champion horsewoman.
All right, have a nice day. Hey, you look very familiar to me. Have we met?
Which has the sponsors, like Land Rover, lining up to use Zara to flog their wares.
You know what I mean?
All right, 3, 2, 1, good.
Now Zara's in Australia to spruik the Magic Millions Racing Carnival, which is owned by our very own retailing royalty, Jerry Harvey and Katie Page.
If you're an eventer, you have to be a very, very brave person. Your technique has to be fantastic. So I was after a woman that was had international cachet but was very brave and independent, and that's Zara. I mean, I couldn't get a better girl.
And the other thing is she's royal without being royal, isn't she?
She's royal, but you don't see that. But the royal part, I mean, the DNA with that family, with horses, not just eventing but race horses, makes her again the perfect choice for racing women.
How much are you paying her?
You know, it's very reasonable. I think it's very reasonable.
Every little girl when they're growing up loves their horses, don't they? And
So, strolling down a Gold Coast beach in the charming company of a reasonably priced royal and a billionaire retailer.
And from Katie's point of view, you're the ideal ambassador, isn't she, Katie?
I don't know why.
So, you know,
It occurred to me that Republicans better take note. The new, easygoing style of the next generation might be the firm's strategy for securing the future here and at home.
You're no stranger to Australia, of course. You've lived here, haven't you?
Well, I don't know about that. I spent about 4 months in my gap year.
What did you achieve during your gap year?
Not much.
Which brings us to another reason why Zara has a liking for Australia. Last year she married English rugby great Mike Tindall, a relationship that first blossomed in Sydney.
2003 World Cup. He was dropped for the semi-finals, so I met him out at a bar.
Which bar?
It was Manly Wharf Bar, and then it kind of went from there.
Is it inevitable that sports people gravitate towards one another? I mean, who else understands you and your obsessions?
Saying we're obsessed.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, probably. It's probably easy, you know, wanting to be the best and kind of goes together well.
Just talking about sport in general, are we getting it
Are we taking it too seriously now? I mean, it is only a game, isn't it?
Oh no, it is only a game, but then it's people's lifestyle, it's their livelihood, isn't it? And the amount of hours and blood, sweat and tears you put into it, you know, you can see that's the emotion and the hard work and everything coming out at the end.
But you were British. I mean, you invented good losing, you people. You gave us the world the aphorism, it's not whether you win or lose, but how you play the game, right?
We pretend we put it out there like that, but actually
yeah, but
it's totally
really,
different. I thought the men were supposed to do this.
She popped the bottle of expensive French bubbly with an ease that suggested some prior experience. And so ended a long day that I fear did little to advance the Republican cause and nothing to suggest that this delightful young woman's family are going to disappear from our lives anytime soon.
Thank you. Here's your brilliant career.
Oh, thank you.
Good luck with the next Olympics.
Keep your fingers crossed.
They are.
It's the stuff of fairy tales, the royal wedding of Harry and Meghan. The handsome prince met the beautiful young actress on a blind date a year and a half ago, and almost instantly they fell in love. Now the chapel is booked, the dressmakers, rumoured to be Australians, are hard at work, and the guest list is the subject of breathless consternation. But as the big day, May the 19th, approaches, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are also facing a blowtorch of cruel scrutiny, much of it directed at the American divorcee. Not that the happy couple will let it ruin the so-called wedding of the century. They're playful, comfortable, and clearly captivated by each other. And when Prince Harry and his bride-to-be, Meghan Markle, candidly shared their engagement news with the world, we all fell a little more in love with them too.
Just a standard, typical night for us.
It's a cosy night. It was what we're doing, just roasting chicken and
Roasting
having
a chicken. Trying to roast a chicken.
Trying to roast a chicken, and it was just an amazing surprise. It was so sweet and natural and very romantic. He got on one knee.
I think I managed to catch it by surprise as well. So.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they were strangers to each other.
Research is as much art as science.
Prince Harry had never seen or heard of Meghan Markle, despite her starring in the long-running American TV series Suits.
I am not interested.
And it seems Markle knew little, if anything, of Harry.
Prince William or Prince Harry? Harry. Harry? Sure.
We were introduced actually by a mutual friend.
Was she trying to set you up?
Yes, it was definitely a setup. It was a blind date.
It was a blind date. There she was sitting there. I was like, okay, well, I really have to up my game. I had to sit down and and make sure I've got a good chat.
And now, according to Duncan Larkham, former royal writer with the Sun newspaper and Harry's biographer, Britain is wild, not just about Harry, but Meghan too.
Prince Harry and Meghan's relationship is a fairy tale. It's a whirlwind romance, a blind date that's led her to the doorstep of the royal family. I mean, that's Hollywood, if you like. But for Harry, I just think this is like the end of Harry's journey from the little boy that had his head bowed behind his mother's coffin, that really took Harry to the nation's heart, to him with a big beaming smile with a beautiful wife and just the whole future ahead. I think everyone will get a bit of a buzz out of that.
Oh, there you are.
Americans, right? And here, the crowd's just going absolutely mad. You see, now this is where we go into action. Absolute into action. Look at the dress, how crumpled it is. Terrible.
India Hicks may be 678th in the long line to the British throne, but as Prince Charles's goddaughter and a bridesmaid at his and Princess Diana's nuptials,
Most of the royal wedding footage is really my bottom in the air. That's really what we get to see.
she knows a thing or two about the fascination with a big royal wedding.
It really is fairy tale wedding stuff. I mean, look at that incredible tiara.
Do you think it felt like a fairy tale for her that day?
I think, like many brides, she was probably very conflicted in her emotions.
India Hicks,
At just 13, India was more perplexed by Diana's long train than any doubts the nervous bride may have harboured.
So in here, we've got, rather amazingly, my bridesmaid's dress that I wore for Charles and Diana's wedding, and the dress that my mother wore at the Queen and Prince Philip's wedding. I think quite unusual to have two bridesmaids' dresses hanging together.
From mother to daughter,
now the bridesmaids.
it's as if India was born to be a royal bridesmaid. Today, she treasures the role she played on the 29th of July, 1981, and the dress she hated wearing that day.
For me, this is just a painful dress. It was the 1980s, and I think clearly that was a special moment in fashion.
You're allowed to say that, you see. We can think it, but you're allowed to say it.
It was quite painful. It was also painful for me because I was quite a tomboy, so I was used to riding ponies and being outdoors, and suddenly I was wearing this frou-frou dress.
Naturally, being part of the family, India is a huge supporter of the monarchy. But she also believes the marriage of Diana's youngest son and his American star is vital to its relevancy.
Will the greatest impact come from Meghan Markle on the royal family, or will the institution have a bigger impact on her?
I think it will probably be a combination of the two. I think it has to be. There's a formality to that family that she will have to comply to out of good grace and good manners. But I think also she needs to put her own stamp on it as well. And I think Harry is young and spirited, and I think that together they will do that. They will write their own chapter of history.
In choosing Meghan, a glamorous American divorcee who at 36 is 3 years his senior, Harry has already broken the mould and possibly the hearts of English roses all over the country.
If you look at the royal family and Harry within the royal family, I think that's probably part of his popularity because he is different. He does things his way.
According to Duncan Larkham, behind the Queen, Harry is the most liked royal in Britain.
Oh, really? Please.
Boo.
Because, like his mother, Diana, Harry has an extraordinary connection with the public.
He has a reputation for being roguish and brackish, the party prince.
Yeah.
Has he grown out of that?
Part of me as a tabloid royal correspondent sort of see the wedding day as a dark day for us because it's heralds the end of the party prince and the beginning of Prince Harry, the husband, and la la la.
Yeah, isn't the joke that the world has seen more naked shots of Harry than they have of Meghan?
Much to Harry's disdain, I'm sure, but yeah, I mean, Harry's partying days were predominantly after he left school and before he joined the army. It was that extended gap year that branded him the heavy drinking, partying, don't care, wild royal. And the irony is that wildness, those gaffes, all the things that Harry did wrong, like wearing a Nazi outfit, pushing a photographer, dabbling with cannabis, that's why the public love him so much. And the Queen will be delighted on his wedding day. And Prince Charles will probably just be very relieved.
On Saturday, May 19, just 5 weeks away, the eyes of the world will be trained here. As Prince Harry and Meghan Markle tie the knot at St George's Chapel in Windsor Castle. Journalist Duncan Larkham says it will be a royal wedding with a common touch.
So on the day, what sort of a spectacle will it be?
Well, I mean, look at the setting. You're going to have tens of thousands of people out with picnics, with beer tents. This is just, and at the crucial moment, Harry and Meghan will come up here on a horse-drawn carriage. Knowing Harry, he'll be kissing Meghan, or they'll be doing something for the cameras.
If you love me, I'm a prince.
Everyone loves a love story, and it's hard to think of a more quaint or romantic setting for love than Windsor. But how well this American actress will cope with the hundreds of years of history, the unassailable tradition, and the huge expectation that comes with marrying into the royal family is still very much under question.
Meghan's an actress, but after she marries, she's taken on the biggest role of her life, and she's on a global stage, and the smallest detail, if she gets that wrong, will backfire. This is a tightrope walk she has to walk now, and so it's a tough gig she's chosen.
It's terrifying.
Well, it might have even been Harry that said, but certainly I remember somebody saying that, you know, in order to marry into the royal family, you'd have to be stark raving mad. So maybe Meghan is, which is great.
I think Meghan's probably realising now just how difficult the royal family is to stomach.
Why would she be realising that now? I mean,
because she's there, they've got her.
Australian Germaine Greer, renowned feminist, author and Republican, has lived in the UK for the past 55 years, giving her plenty of time to form her opinions on the royal family. She finds them ludicrous, fearfully controlling, but worse, their style is a crime against fashion, and Meghan, their latest victim.
And they put her in that turd of a hat she had to wear at Christmas time, that brown thing, with her hair all hanging down like this. It must have been uncomfortable, and it was certainly ugly. They will interfere.
Turd hat. You don't think the turd hat was her choice?
No, I don't. Well, you wonder, did they bring in a whole tray full of turd hats and she chose the turdiest one so people would know how hopeless they were? Maybe it was a guerrilla move. I don't know. It's certainly a dreadful hat.
But according to Germaine, Meghan has already sacrificed far more than style. This independent, self-described feminist has said goodbye to acting and her country, and formally embraced her fiancé's religion by being newly baptised into the Church of England.
Well, let's hope they're in love. If they're not, it's going to be totally unbearable.
If it isn't love, why would somebody like Meghan Markle sign up for this?
Why would a girl born in poverty marry a man with 53 million quid? I can't think of a single reason. Well, because she expects to have a good time. She probably is in love with him. He's glamorous, despite having red hair.
You're getting a new country out of it, a husband, obviously, but also giving up your
nice.
career.
Yes, this is nice. Yes. But I don't see it as giving anything up. I just see it as a change.
It's a new challenge. It's a new
chapter.
It isn't even about joining the royal family. It's about coming onto the world stage and being front and centre, and never ever is anything ever normal again. You'll never go out and buy your own packet of crisps again. My God, that's a price to pay.
Once linked with Prince Harry, everything about Meghan became fair game. Her ethnicity, the failure of her first marriage, the venting against her by jealous and greedy half-siblings. It became so ugly, with racist and sexist overtones, Harry struck back with an unprecedented statement telling the trolls and the columnists to back off.
There's a misconception that because I have worked in the entertainment industry that this would be something I would be familiar with, but I've never been part of tabloid culture. I've never been in pop culture to that degree, and I think we were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything, positive or negative. It just didn't make sense, and instead we focused all of our energies just on nurturing our relationship.
On us.
On us.
I think she will see vistas of boredom that are unbelievable. But I think the pressure to escape from the firm is crushing.
So what do you think the prospects are for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle?
I think she'll bolt. She bolted before. She was out the door. I think she'll bolt. I hope, in a way, that she'll bolt, but maybe she'll take Harry with her.
Is there anything within you, Germaine, that's warm and fuzzy about this marriage?
I'm not actually in favour of marriage, I'm sorry to have to admit. I think it's a hopeless system. It doesn't deliver what it says on the tin. You know, it doesn't guarantee child support, even. It doesn't guarantee status in the community.
But this marriage will, won't it?
Yeah, but for all the wrong reasons. She will still be seen as an adjunct to him.
But very much still in the glow of love, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry appear to make a very happy couple. And if anyone can withstand the rigours of royalty, these two are committed to doing so.
It's not easy for anybody, but I know that, you know, at the end of the day, she chooses me and I choose her, and therefore, you know, whatever we have to tackle together or individually will always be us together as a team. So, I think she's capable of.
So nicely said, isn't it?
I don't know, but she's capable of anything.
With its wholesome family vibes and soothing acoustic backing, this video looks more like a commercial for a fashion label or a car company than it does a celebration of Will and Kate's 10th wedding anniversary. But the royal family needs some good PR right now, more than just about any business out there. And they've got the perfect vehicle in the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and their 3 adorable children.
We've seen a different side to the royals, and I think we've particularly seen that with William and Kate. They've been more real, more relatable, and I think that's been incredibly important for the royal family.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
Amid a sea of recent scandals,
Concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
the royals have been painted as out of touch.
I feel really let down.
So many believe the best hope of restoring the public's faith in the crown is for it to be worn by someone with that common touch.
Much has been made of Kate's heritage and where she comes from. I mean, she is a commoner.
Do you think Kate's ready to be queen now?
I think she's born ready. It's a modern version of, you know, the royal family that we know. I think she's absolutely perfect for that role. Obviously, I'm a bit biased, but wouldn't Kate and William be great at it?
Gary Goldsmith's bias is understandable. He is Kate's uncle, brother of her mum, Carol Middleton. The self-made, multi-millionaire rarely speaks publicly, but has decided to open up about the crown jewel of his family. How does it play out at a family function when someone comes up to you and says, hey, Kate's going out with Prince William?
Well, I got the phone call, didn't I? I was in a board meeting and Carol's just phoned me just to say this might be happening. And I was sworn to secrecy. But the conversation was, you what? Seriously? I can't believe that this is a real thing. And the first thing you do, even though you're sworn to secrecy, is tell your best mates. And they all just thought, you know, hi Bill, I think I'm going to be uncle to the future queen of the country.
What's it like when you're meeting Prince William for the first time?
I'll talk about surreal moments. Walk through the front door of the family home. There's Kate cooking supper, William making a cup of tea. All the families just mooching around. And then William says, hello, I'm William. And it's, hi, I'm Gary. It was just like meeting just a normal bloke. He was a normal part of the family, which was a bit bonkers. I mean, that's Prince William. And he's just making a cup of tea.
What small talk do you make with William? It can't be like, what do you want to do when you're older, or what's your dad do?
Yeah, what car do you drive? Where do you live? Obviously he's big time into his rugby. When the rugby's being watched, is your dad supporting Wales and you're supporting England? How does that work? There's loads of fun to be had.
It took the better part of a decade before Prince William finally popped the question.
I'm willing to learn quickly and work hard now.
She'll do really well. With the couple tying the knot on a spectacular day in 2011. Is it a bit of a pinch yourself moment when you're at Westminster Abbey and all of a sudden a member of your family is marrying an heir to the throne?
Unbelievable. From the moment we jumped into the car and on the way to the ceremony, that was crazy, thinking this is our Kate. And then suddenly seeing that her walking down the aisle with Mike, I mean, that was just absolutely mind-blowing. I think I was there with my daughter and we're just staring at each other going, OMG.
Here they come.
Since then, they've been a picture-perfect couple, including welcoming 3 new young royals for the British public to celebrate.
Here comes the sun.
Royal correspondent Katie Nicholl charted the evolution of the Duchess of Cambridge in her book, Kate, the Future Queen.
You know, for someone that wasn't born royal, she does royal incredibly well. She is flawless, you know, she doesn't put a foot wrong.
But such has been Kate's devotion to presenting a pristine and conservative family life that some believe her public persona is a bit too Stepford wives. A lot of the commentary around Kate is that she's dignified and that she's proper. Is it sometimes a fine line between being that conservative and almost being boring?
I do think that there was a feeling in those early years. Some people did feel that perhaps she might be a bit boring. So I think to a degree, yes, she has played it safe, and that has earned her criticism. Hilary Mantel, the author, once described her as a mannequin, that she didn't have her own opinion, that she was just this bit part in the sidelines. I think that was to underestimate Kate greatly. I think actually she has simply bided her time, and now, with 10 years of royal service under her belt, we are hearing from her more, we are seeing more of her.
I was amazed as a first-time parent that
the royal family realised they have a really important key player here, and they're bringing her centre stage. So we have seen a shift.
In fact, Kate's standing in the royal family has now come so far that many believe she is their biggest asset.
I think Kate is the glue. In the same way that the Duke of Edinburgh was always the one who would help resolve family issues, he was the patriarch of the family, I see Kate stepping into that role, trying to keep things together.
Do you think there's an element of the firm that would almost like to skip past Charles and Camilla and get straight to William and Kate as King and Queen?
A lot of people think it would make more sense to skip a generation and let the crown move straight to William and Kate. Possibly they might prove a more popular king and queen than Charles and Camilla. But the idea of breaking constitution, and that is essentially everything the royal family is built upon, is really something that's not going to happen.
Prince of Wales had previously accompanied the Queen to the state opening on...
We will have King Charles and Queen Camilla before we have King William and Queen Catherine, but I think a lot of people believe that the real future of the monarchy, the longevity of the monarchy, lies in William and Kate.
The question, though, is whether William and Kate are up to the top jobs. I get the feeling you're so proud of Kate that just a little tear will roll down the cheek when she does become queen.
I'll be like a baby. She's someone to be super, super, super proud of. And hopefully that comes across. And I genuinely will say she is nicer on the inside than she's on the outside. She's a very beautiful soul.
Kate Middleton's uncle, Gary Goldsmith, is himself no stranger to headlines. He's often snapped by the paps, and a few years ago was caught up in an embarrassing tabloid sting. But his penchant for controversy is nothing compared to that of Kate's in-laws, Harry and Meghan. I saw a headline that you called Harry and Meghan Muppets.
Yeah, do you know, I'm embarrassed about doing it, but I'll stand by it.
So you still think they're Muppets?
No, I'm just very disappointed with them, and I think there's a whole nation that's massively disappointed. We all love Harry. The world loves Harry, but do you know what? You just don't do what they did, and then go on Oprah and talk like that. It's just not the way the world works.
A few days before the wedding, she was upset about something pertaining to, yes, the issue was correct about flower girl dresses, and it made me cry, and it really hurt my feelings.
Meghan, some people say she threw Kate under the bus by highlighting that it was actually Kate who made Meghan cry before the wedding. What did you think of her dredging up that old incident?
Didn't believe a word of it, if I'm brutally honest. That is not the Kate I've ever known. That is not behaviour that would ever be like that. Kate would always be the peacemaker in any of those situations. I think we saw at the funeral that she's trying to make peace, and she always does. There were lots of things in that interview that I didn't believe, and that was definitely one of them.
Do you think the fact that Meghan has drawn so much controversy has almost, in the end, by comparison, made Kate look even better?
Yes. Yes.
Queen Elizabeth's shoes, or should they be crown, will be immensely difficult to fill in the decades to come.
So there are some disadvantages to crowns, but otherwise they're quite important things.
But royal correspondent Katie Nichols says in the last 12 months, the Duchess of Cambridge has really shown she has what it takes to be a respected senior member of the royal family. Has COVID in some ways been the making of Kate?
I think some people might say that the lockdown that we experienced here, well, 3 of them, in many ways was the unlocking of Kate, because I think that the public got to see more of the true Duchess than they'd ever been able to see before.
The first number is 5 and 8, 58.
We got to see William and Kate at home at Anma. We got to see their children clapping for the NHS during the lockdown. We got access to them in a way that we absolutely hadn't before.
Hello, David Attenborough.
And I think a lot of that was down to William and Kate recognising that they couldn't be seen to be in their ivory tower. They needed to be accessible.
One defining moment sticks in Katie's mind when the Duchess of Cambridge took it upon herself to visit the London vigil for murdered woman Sarah Everard in March this year. How much does that resonate with the public when they see Kate out there at a vigil like that?
It does resonate with the public. In that moment, I think that was a real turning point for Kate. It was a big thing for her to do. We're not used to seeing royals do that sort of thing. I think she was showing and paving the way for a new way of being royal. And that way will resonate with the future generation. That is the future of the monarchy. It's being real, it's being able to connect, and it's being relatable.
The tabloids infamously dubbed Kate Waity Katie when it took years for William to finally propose. And it may still be decades yet before she fulfills her destiny and becomes queen.
My lords and members of the
But her
House of
proud
Commons.
Uncle Gary is adamant it'll definitely be worth the wait. What's something about Kate's personality that perhaps a lot of people wouldn't know?
She's got a wicked and devilish sense of humour. So she's a very funny girl, and actually laughter actually fills every room that she's in. She's very domestic. She's very good at cooking. So she's almost like the girl next door with a wicked sense of humour who happens to have a really quite important role.
You know, there are suggestions that once the Queen passes, that Australia will then look to become a republic. So Kate may one day be Queen of England, but she might never be Queen of Australia.
I think it might be to Australia's loss. There's this very strong bond between our two nations. If you don't get a piece of Kate the way we do, that's a real shame. I think you are missing out.
Good evening, welcome to London and a special edition of 60 Minutes. I'm Amelia Adams. It doesn't make the end of Queen Elizabeth's magnificent reign any less sad, but 3 days on from her death, there are already fewer tears and instead more applause and heartfelt thanks for her service. 70 years in the job not only redefines the idea of devotion to duty, It also guarantees Her Majesty will be remembered as one of the most admired women who's ever lived. Tonight, attention turns to her successor. The Queen's eldest son, now King Charles III, has spent almost his entire life preparing for the mighty role he's inherited. But as Tara Brown reports, many people are already questioning how comfortably the crown will fit him.
Service is something that you give yourself to people, if you know, particularly if they want you, and sometimes if they don't want you, if you feel that you can do something, even if they think that you're not doing something very useful, and you think you're right there, then you can be of service.
I carved your name.
It's cruel fate that Charles' destiny to become king could only be realised with the death of the Queen. A birthright in waiting for almost a lifetime.
That promise of lifelong service I renew to you all today.
An inheritance that will forever be marked by sadness. With the passing of a much-loved monarch, but most wrenchingly, the loss of an adored mother.
Your Majesty, Mummy.
First and foremost, the royal family is a family. How keenly is the loss of the Queen being felt by those who knew her best and loved her most?
I mean, I think the whole nation is shocked and very saddened, and not only just the nation, the whole world. But as a family member, we're all sad. I mean, it's great loss.
Having reached an extraordinary 7th decade as monarch, the Queen's death heralds a huge transition. At 73, Charles ascends the throne as the longest-serving heir apparent in British history. But speculation of who he will be as king has sent Britain into somewhat of a national identity crisis.
I think the overwhelming emotion is certainly grief for the Queen. And I think it's nervous anticipation, perhaps, for King Charles's reign. So what does this mean? What does the future look like? What will the new king's reign look like? What will the new king be like?
Trace Domine, my soul's become most real. Trace Domine.
For many observers, Britain and the Commonwealth are witnessing the end of a golden era. The death of Queen Elizabeth may well signal the death of the monarchy itself. Ongoing scandal and family feuding feeding the new Republican debate.
We should have enough respect and love for Australia and its people, our Australian family, to say that our head of state should be one of us.
Will King Charles, more polarising than popular, be the sovereign to save or destroy the realm? When you said you believed that Charles was a risk to the monarchy, what did you mean by that?
Charles is a controversial man and also a conservative man. His life has been bedogged by the death of Diana and also by his own personality and character. He's an Olympic whinger, a man who constantly complains.
But for his supporters and friends, King Charles is the perfect fit for the times.
I'm very excited about him being king. I want him to be our king of the environment. He has for so long supported all sorts of environmental causes, long before many other people were interested, and now is the most excellent opportunity for him to lead that charge.
At Buckingham Palace, which for 62 years has seen no royal birth, His Royal Highness the baby is born behind these windows.
Queen Elizabeth was just a princess when, on the 14th of November 1948, she and Prince Philip welcomed Charles into the world.
At lovely Windlesham Moor, their recently acquired country home at Sunningdale, Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip spend a happy afternoon with the world's most famous baby.
The world he arrived in wasn't to be sneezed at, a place of extraordinary privilege and attention. But in 3 short years, his mother became queen. With the shock death of her father, King George VI, public service and long separations from her children became an even bigger part of royal life.
Here's wishing a very important young gentleman many happy returns of the day on his 3rd birthday. It's unfortunate that mother and father are not here to share it with him, but what a party they'll have when they do get back.
It was a childhood Prince Charles would later describe as painful for its loneliness, a pain that only got worse when he was sent to Gordonston, his father's old boarding school in Scotland, which Charles likened to a German concentration camp, calling it Colditz in kilts. Alongside Prince Charles, Johnny Stoneborough was a student there for 4 years. Do you think it was a good fit for Prince Charles?
Many people have said that it was probably not the ideal school to send the young prince to, and I'm inclined to agree with that. And I have quite a strong memory of the prince walking alone. He was not a particularly gregarious person anyway, and I think that he did miss his home, and I think he was homesick, and I think that he was isolated, yeah.
Cementing the isolation, whether it was at mealtime or on the playground, fellow students avoided the prince so as not to themselves become targets of the bullies who clearly relished having a young royal in their sights.
I actually saw one particular incident where he was attacked playing rugby in the scrum, and scrums are rough places anyway, but I could see that they were pulling his ears, for example, and he got punched. But the interesting thing is, and it left a strong impression on me even at the time, was that he was very stoic. He never complained, he didn't whinge, he didn't cry, he didn't do anything that other people might have done in the circumstances. He just got on with it.
Did he fight back?
Absolutely not, no. He was not that sort of person. He was quite a gentle soul. And once you got to know him a little bit better, actually a remarkably nice person. And he certainly didn't fight back.
And at the time, did you see that as a sign of strength or a sign of weakness?
That's a very interesting question. I think that I saw it as a sign of strength, but it also made him vulnerable. And sometimes one wished perhaps that he did retaliate a little more instead of being so stoic, but that's not his nature.
It was in Australia where the teenage prince felt better understood when he was sent to the exclusive Geelong Grammar's Timbertops School for 2 terms. Years later, he fondly recalled his time there as the start of his love affair with Australia.
Part of my own education took place here in Australia. Quite frankly, it was by far the best part. While I was here, I had the pommy bits bashed off me, like chips off an old block.
When he came back after he'd been in Australia, you know, he did remarkably well, and he ended up as head boy of Gordonston, and then he went to Cambridge. So I think in some ways, the Australian experience really helped him, and he found himself in Australia.
It seems Australia helped the young prince find his funny bone and the confidence to share it, even in the classroom.
But I remember one particular incident when the prince enjoyed the Goon Show, and he used to imitate them, and suddenly from the back of the class you would hear this voice saying, "What time is it, Eccles?" And then the reply would be, "I don't know, 8 o'clock." And this would of course make us all laugh, and that was something that he used to do.
Yes, I do believe I've got a bite. I have a bite.
A man of humour and deep introspection.
I think I got quite a large one here. It's very, very large indeed.
A conservationist with extravagant tastes. A humanitarian who could also be a bully. How will the Prince of Contradictions fare as king? For unauthorised biographer Tom Bauer, this ultimate changing of the guard will see a fundamental shift in Charles. For a man who's been waiting in the wings for so long, how easy or difficult do you believe the transition will be for him from prince to king?
His challenge is enormous. I think he will rise to the challenge because he's been preparing for it for 70 years. This is his moment. This is when he can prove himself. This is when there will be the Charles of history, which he wants to make sure lasts forever in all our history books. He is determined to succeed. He's had to wait a long time for it. He's not going to blow it now.
Charles was born to be king. Destined to follow in his mother's footsteps, even as a young man, Charles showed a similar sense of duty. In a moving ceremony, Charles was sworn in as the Prince of Wales by the Queen when he was 20.
I, Charles, Prince of Wales, do become your liege man of life and limb, and of earthly worship.
He then impressed and surprised many when he addressed the crowds in Welsh, having studied the language for just 6 weeks.
Mae'ch ynerchiad wedi fy nghyffordd yn dywys, a gallaf eich sicrhau fy mod wedi cymryd sylwi.
When he took on the role of Prince of Wales, Charles made a commitment to serve. It's a commitment his second cousin, Lord Iver Mountbatten, says Charles has tried to fulfil all his life. You know, how keenly has he felt the responsibility of his role?
I mean, the motto actually is, I serve, ich dine, I believe, and that is the motto on the coat of arms of the Prince of Wales. And throughout his whole life, I think when you appreciate that you are going to assume the mantle of kingship, you know, you are slightly different. So he was very conscious of the fact that he was going to be king, and taken his responsibilities very seriously.
In so doing, Ivor believes Charles has created a perception of himself that isn't complete.
And he appears aloof, but as I know him, he certainly isn't. And in a family environment, everybody behaves very differently than your public perception.
What do you think the difference is between the public persona and the private man?
Actually, I suppose warmth. Sometimes on television you can't appreciate the warmth of a person, but he's an exceedingly caring chap.
But Charles has also earned a reputation for being eccentric and out of touch, according to author Tom Bauer, who wrote the unauthorised biography, The Rebel Prince.
He's a man who is frightfully self-indulgent. His eating habits, his travel habits, his extravagance, his unwillingness to actually understand that he looks sometimes faintly ridiculous. His commitment to complementary medicine, where he believed that cancer could be cured by coffee enemas, was bizarre.
And an admission he speaks to his much-loved plants had him tagged the Looney Prince, a title Charles skillfully poked fun at.
Only the other day I was inquiring of an entire bed of old-fashioned roses who were forced to listen to my demented ramblings on the meaning of the universe as I sat cross-legged in the lotus position on the gravel path in front of them.
A more serious passion has been his charity work through the Prince's Trust.
How do you bring hope and some sort of inspiration to people who so often living in the sort of conditions and circumstances where there appears to be no hope at all? Meant to be finished in September.
He's worked tirelessly to create jobs and a future for the underprivileged and unwell, as witnessed by his wife, Camilla.
He feels everything inside, and that's why he gets things done. He's pretty impatient. He wants things done by yesterday, as I think everybody who works for him will tell you. But that's how he gets things done. He's driven by this passion inside him to really help. He really wants to save, he would like to save the world.
But his remarkable efforts have not come without controversy.
Problem with his charities has brought huge controversy because the financing of those charities has always meant raising money from very controversial characters, often criminals, but very rich. And he's sold access to himself to get the money to finance his charities. So with everything that Charles has done on the one hand good, there has also been a negative and a bad.
It's, after all, one of my rare opportunities to stir things up, to throw a proverbial royal brick through the inviting plate glass of pompous professional pride.
Charles' willingness to use his position of power to influence and pressure those in the realm of politics has caused great concern, according to royal historian Professor Anna Whitelock.
There is certainly a backstory with Charles where it's been released what were known as the spider letters because of his rather spidery handwriting. He was writing to ministers and advocating for certain causes. And so over the years, there has been some pushback about the fact that he seemed to be intervening in politics, meddling in a way that really he shouldn't. That said, that there isn't a constitutional position as Prince of Wales which formally precluded him from doing that.
Some people have accused you of meddling.
Really? You don't say. But I always wonder what meddling is. I mean, I always thought it was motivating, but I've always been intrigued if it's meddling to worry about the inner cities as I did 40 years ago and what was happening or not happening there, the conditions in which people were living. If that's meddling, I'm very proud of it.
But as monarch, and as modelled by the supremely discreet Queen Elizabeth, the new role, by law, brings new restrictions. Is it a difficult line for him to walk? Because he has been so outspoken about these issues before and he has been political. Do you think that he can keep that in check?
There is, of course, as monarch, as a constitutional monarch, he needs to remain above the fray of politics. And I think over the years, he's always said that, you know, on becoming king, he would very much step into his mother's shoes and absolutely understand the limitations of his position as constitutional monarch.
The idea somehow that I'm going to go on exactly the same way, if I have to succeed, is complete nonsense, because the two situations are completely different.
Because, of course, people have expressed worries about whether this involvement will continue in the same way.
No, it won't. I'm not that stupid. I do realize that it is a separate exercise, being sovereign. So, of course, you know, I understand entirely how that should operate. An indestructible plastic.
There are many, though, who hope, as king, Charles will continue to address the calamity of climate change, a cause he's been publicly committed to since the 70s.
We must understand the vital importance of all these remarkable natural ecosystems. They are our life support system.
But do you think we've begun to turn the corner now?
Not yet, have we, on climate change? We're running out of time because the necessary action hasn't been taken, has it? That's the problem. And I cannot believe that people can simply pay no attention to science. They accept it in every other aspect of modern existence, the evidence, but apparently not the climate change.
I think the environment does actually give him the space to be much more sort of political with a small p. If he can champion himself as an environmental monarch who can speak out sort of apolitically, as is required of a constitutional monarch, but at the same time speaking into what are becoming increasingly political and global issues, I think he really could find a space and a voice for himself, and in that sense find a kind of new relevance and new purpose for the monarchy.
we must put nature back at the heart of the equation.
Is he going to be perhaps more relevant a monarch than you expected?
Look, I think King Charles will do his best to be unbelievably relevant and a man who sears his name on history.
Coming to the throne so late in life, Charles will have much less time than the Queen to make his mark. But he's not wasted the years leading to this moment.
I, Charles III...
The speeches were written a long time ago. The gestures were planned decades ago and then refined endlessly. So what is happening now is the unfolding of a plan which has been much in gestation, long in thought, deep in thought, and a lot of work has gone into making sure that when Charles is crowned, when Charles speaks, when Charles travels, that everything is synchronized just to make sure that the monarchy is embedded, that his reign is unchallenged, that his position in the Commonwealth and Australia is secure. All that has been thought through very, very carefully. The House of Windsor has survived for 1,000 years, and his job will be to make sure that it survives his lifetime and his children and grandchildren's too.
King Charles may be the man of the moment, but Hollywood's reprising of the past.
So he was constantly embarrassed by this unbelievably beautiful woman.
Is creating a whole new generation of Princess Diana fans, highly critical of the King.
It was very interesting speaking to younger people here, people sort of 18, 19 and in their early 20s who weren't alive when Diana was, but because of the Netflix drama, have a huge amount of sympathy for Diana. I mean, they see her as a sort of martyr, Marilyn Monroe type figure.
With a crown of glory and righteousness, that having a right faith and manifold fruit of good works.
Queen Elizabeth ruled for 70 years, winning the affection and admiration of millions around the world. Towards the end of her reign, Charles increasingly performed royal duties to support his mother. His role and reputation as the Shadow King earning newfound respect.
It is my sincere wish that one day the Prince of Wales should carry on the important work started by my father in 1949.
But it is the shadow of the past that threatens to undo Charles' good work, according to royal historian Professor Anna Whitelock.
For many people, it was the marriage to Princess Diana, that 1981 wedding that was beamed around the world, and the subsequent very public divorce and then tragic death of Diana that really has defined his time as Prince of Wales. And for many years, he was seen as very unpopular because of the fact that he was criticised for his relationship with Princess Diana and the fact that he was having an affair with Camilla.
Charles and Camilla finally made their relationship official when they married in 2005. Despite the controversy, for the King's second cousin, Lord Ivan Mountbatten, Camilla has brought stability to the monarchy. Having Camilla by his side, is that an advantage or a disadvantage in your view?
Oh, an advantage, 100%. They get on famously. They have a good laugh together. And so if you've got a happy monarch, then hopefully you have a happy country. So no, it's without doubt is an advantage.
Is the country fond of Camilla?
I mean, she had a tough start. Clearly, the Princess of Wales was exceedingly popular. But, you know, anybody marrying into the royal family historically has had a very rough time. Anybody who really gives it some thought can understand that, you know, being the Prince of Wales or the king as he is now, you know, it's a tough gig. And you do need to have somebody by your side. And she's done a great job. And I think as a result, she has become, you know, much loved. And, you know, people really appreciate that.
He's a very exceptional man. They see him as a very serious person, which he is. But I would like a lot of people to see the lighter side of him.
3 cheers for the royal party!
Outside the family, while public opinion of Camilla and Charles has somewhat softened, not all has been forgiven, despite the years and the hard work.
Camilla has been gradually rehabilitated over the years, and it has been a long, long process. And she was vilified. She was described as the Rottweiler. She was all over the press. She really was, you know, the other woman and talked about in the worst possible way. But she has very much been patient and loyal to Prince Charles and hasn't pushed herself forward, has known her place. But it was very interesting speaking to younger people here, people sort of 18, 19 and in their early 20s who weren't alive when Diana was. But because of the Netflix drama, have a huge amount of sympathy for Diana. I mean, they see her as a sort of martyr, Marilyn Monroe type figure. And when I was speaking to them, they, you know, were really critical of Prince Charles.
The reaction has been literally fantastic, and I've never seen so many people around and such friendliness and overwhelming.
Right from the start, people wanted to believe in the fairy tale, as Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer acknowledged in an interview in 1981, discussing their upcoming wedding.
So I can't wait for the whole thing. I want everybody to come out, you know, having had a marvellous musical and emotional experience.
A painfully shy 19-year-old Diana revealed the early pressure to adapt to the spotlight.
I don't know, do you find that after the last 6 months you're beginning to get used to it?
Just. It is, I suppose, one of the most important things you're going to have to adjust to, really, isn't it?
Of course, yes.
And Prince Charles has been a great help to you in that progression.
Oh, he's a tower of strength.
Precious.
I have to say that because you're sitting there. I'm sure you would anyway.
It was the wedding the world watched.
Take thee, Philip, Charles, Arthur, George.
And to the world, their union brought magic to the monarchy.
At what stage, going to the cathedral, actually during the service, at what stage did you get the idea that it was becoming an enormous success so that you could enjoy it?
Enjoy something like that? Oh, God. It was terrifying. Such a long walk up that aisle for a start. No, I'm only teasing. Am I?
But when you came up...
We were married, and at that time everybody was saying, good luck, and I hope everything goes well, and how lucky you are to be engaged to such a lovely lady. And my goodness, I was lucky enough to marry her. And we had many, many messages. It's amazing what ladies do when your back's turned.
2 years into their marriage, and with 9-month-old William in tow, Diana and Charles brought their charm offensive to Australia. It may have been a baptism of fire for Diana, but she quickly made her way into the hearts of royalists to be forever remembered as the People's Princess.
By the time I left Australia, I felt I'd actually been able to achieve something. I was so amazed that I was capable of that.
You got a plastic whale that throws things out the top, little balls.
I just think Australians are marvellous people and very easy to get on with.
I rather like the forthrightness because it means you can be fairly forthright back again. And, you know, that's quite fun.
But it was Charles's lack of forthrightness at home that doomed the marriage even before it began, according to author Tom Bauer.
Well, Charles played the Diana card wrong right from the outset. First of all, he should never have married her because he didn't love her.
Whatever in love means.
Secondly, they were just completely ill-suited. And thirdly, he very quickly showed his envy of her, especially in Australia, during that famous visit in the early 80s.
The children made it clear in the direct way that only children have that it was the princess they wanted on their side of the road.
She was so popular, and he was jealous that she was attracting all the attention and he wasn't.
To the outside world, with their two adorable sons, everything seemed picture perfect.
One more kiss, please. Steady.
But behind the scenes, the stage was set for the War of the Walesers, with Diana recording secret briefings for author Andrew Morton on her husband's affair with Camilla.
I was terrified of that, and I said, I know what's going on between you and Charles, and I just want you to know that. And she said to me, very interesting, she said to me, you've got everything you've ever wanted. You've got all the men in the world fall in love with you, and you've got two beautiful children. What more would you want? So I said, I want my husband.
Did you try to be faithful and honourable to your wife when you took on the vow of marriage?
Yes, absolutely.
And you were?
Yes. Until it became irretrievably broken down. Us both having tried.
It's a proven relationship. It wasn't just a kind of affair that hasn't then translated into a marriage. And I think most people would agree that, they are soulmates, and Camilla was the love of Prince Charles as he was then his life. And I think you would imagine that, times would have moved on, decades have passed since Diana's death. But it does have real potency in the popular discourse. And I think that Charles becoming king is just going to revive that whole discussion, really, and the memory of Diana, because of course there will always be the what ifs, and the what ifs, if Diana hadn't died and if Diana had remained married to Charles, we would have Queen Diana now. And you can imagine that the echoes of that will also be around in the next few weeks. And it is amazing that that's still around and pervasive, but it is. And it is not just around the generations that remember Diana, but actually younger generations too.
Even though at the time Diana admitted to her own infidelity, 25 years after her death, her influence in the palace and amongst the people remains strong.
Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall.
So strong, the Queen felt the need to let the public know that on her death, she wished for Camilla, as King Charles' wife, to be given the title of Queen. The carefully planned move was to prevent potential hostility the royal household will continue to monitor.
I think the Buckingham Palace, those around Charles, are going to be watching and observing very carefully how people are reacting to him.
It really will be about the temperature of the public's response, will it?
I think it will largely be about that. I mean, I think there's no doubt that Charles would want to have Camilla officially by his side and have her crowned queen. And it would, in a sense, draw a line under the past. It would also acknowledge Camilla as his wife and for all the work that she's done supporting him and supporting the Queen latterly in the royal family and for the monarchy. But they are not going to want to risk a big public backlash.
While the past may still haunt the present, observers believe King Charles will be focused on the future, doing all he can to rebuff a renewed Republican debate in Australia and throughout the Commonwealth.
Shouldn't our head of state be an Aussie?
We are smart enough.
It was certainly old enough.
We can take it from here.
We can take it from here. Thanks. We can take it from here.
With the passing of the Queen, how healthy do you believe the monarchy is? Can it survive the death of the Queen?
Well, certainly it can, and I'm sure it will. I guess the obvious question for Australia is, should we continue to have the British monarch as our head of state.
Would you accept that the Republicans have a better chance this time around with King Charles?
No, I don't. You know, the Republicans, if they want to try again, well, we say, well, bring it on, try again. We'll keep having the fight, because I just don't think Australians are at that mindset.
Like many around the world, Queensland Liberal National Party MP Jared Belle is mourning the death of Queen Elizabeth.
Well, it's a terrible loss, and Her Majesty epitomised what a monarch in a constitutional monarchy should be and does. She's been an inspiration to many people around the world. She was an inspiration to many women around the world. And so it's a terrible loss, and people will be grieving for a long period of time.
When his party was in office, as a committed monarchist and Attorney General of Queensland at the time, Jared gave back to barristers the title option of Queen's Counsel and renamed courts in Her Majesty's honour. With her death, he leads the Young Monarchists League in a rallying cry against any Republicans emboldened by the Queen's passing.
So I'm looking forward to the future of our constitutional monarchy, and like you, I'll do everything I can to defend it in Queensland and Australia, and young people right around Australia will join us in that fight. And the fight is inevitable. It'll come. When it will come, I have no idea, but we're up to the challenge. And
the Young Monarchists League is a fighting force of close to 50,000 devotees, and it seems they're as passionate about King Charles as they were the Queen.
I was 2 people away from Prince Charles.
We had a fun.
And we just stood by as King Charles, or Prince Charles at the time, walked by and shook all of our hands. And I remember the conversation I had with him, and I was just so starstruck. He's like, oh, you know, how do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm okay. Thank you.
What sort of a king do you think Charles will make?
I think he'll grow into the role, and I think he'll be marvellous.
What qualities do you think he has that makes you judge him to be marvellous as king?
I think he's kind. I think he's generous, courteous. I've met him a couple of occasions, and I've seen how he treats people. He'll be very different. He has used his role as formerly Prince of Wales to modernise, and I suspect he'll bring that into his new role as His Majesty the King.
I first came here to Australia 46 years ago.
The issue for Australia is not whether Charles is a good person, because he is. The issue is whether we should have a Englishman or woman, a citizen of another country as our head of state. And vote yes for our republic.
In 1999, former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, then head of the Republican movement, urged Australia to cut ties with the Queen by voting yes in the referendum on a republic.
This is the proudest moment of my life.
It was a campaign to which a slim majority, 55% of Australians, said no.
Here we go.
Would that argument have been easier for you to make at the time of the 1999 referendum if Charles had been on the throne at the time?
Oh, certainly. Well, it would have been a yes. The answer is yes, clearly, because the Queen has had such an extraordinary standing, very long reign, universal respect. Without any doubt. The argument for change was always harder when the Queen was on the throne.
Malcolm Turnbull and Jared Belle might be on the same side of politics today, but 20-odd years ago, they were on opposite sides of the debate, with a 17-year-old Jared handing out vote no cards.
I was in year 11 in 1999, and I was standing out the front of Caloundra State High School, which was my school, and I was handing out vote no to the Republic. And from there, my passion's grown in terms of defending the constitutional monarchy that we have in Australia. I think it sustains us well.
Would you like to be King of Australia?
Well,
put it this way, as I say, I've always had a great affection for Australia and for Australians. And all I've ever tried to do, as far as Australia is concerned, is to try and help and encourage.
From his early days at Geelong Grammar's Timber Tops,
Having to go and switch the lights out in the dormitories, and all I got were cries of "Pommy bastard,"
to trips with Mum and Dad, or flying the royal flag solo.
There's a guard of honour of 16 lifesavers.
For business or for pleasure, Charles has been a frequent visitor to our shores.
So if there was more of me, I could send one of me to Australia, and another one to wherever else it is, to try and do all the things that I would love to be able to do.
It was 1994 when Ray Martin spoke to Charles about the growing push for Australia to break away from the Crown.
But do you care in that case?
I think it's up to Australians to decide how they want it to be. It's not up to me to decide. I mean, for goodness sake, things have changed. I'm enough of a historian to realise that.
All right.
But let's just avoid the insults and the unnecessary catcalling and all that sort of thing, because, as I've said, all we are interested in is actually helping Australia. We are not trying to make money out of it or sort of hang on to it as if it was some toy.
But British author Tom Bower expects now that Charles is king, his position has dramatically changed, and he will work very hard to retain ties between the two nations.
One shouldn't underestimate how scheming Charles is and how thoughtful he is to maintain his legacy. He will not want to be the king that oversees the breakup of the Commonwealth or the monarchy. He will do his best to maintain the connection with Australia.
Let's talk about Australia's next head of state.
In our current system...
Even before the Queen died, the Australian Republican movement was again publicly agitating for change, advertising a model on how to replace the monarch with our own head of state. Tom Bower believes this has given urgency to the new King's plans.
We can take it from here.
We can take it from here. Thanks.
I anticipate he'll go quickly out to Australia and New Zealand to attempt to seal the bonds again. He is a stout campaigner. William is even better. William and Kate, of course, will be promoted by the palace as the face of the future. That will be key to the campaign in Australia, sending Kate and William there, with their children perhaps, to show that the links are indivisible and can't be broken.
I think now, as Charles extends the throne, William and Kate are going to be absolutely crucial in supporting him and will be very active working royals.
Royal historian Professor Anna Whitelock believes that while Charles' long-delayed ascension to the throne may not engender great excitement, it's the star power of these younger royals that will keep the Commonwealth intact.
I'm not sure that people are there yet, and I think the apathy might be sufficient to keep Charles on the throne for now, with people believing and holding out perhaps for the future King William and thinking that that might represent something different.
Can you see us going to a referendum?
Not in the short term, no. And I don't think the Republicans will want to rush off to a referendum unless they categorically think they can win it. Because if they do a referendum again and it fails, then hopefully it'll kick into the long grass for many, many, many years and never have the debate again.
Australia will not become a republic on the 1st of January.
Does it frustrate you?
Look, I wouldn't say it frustrates me, it disappoints me, but I did say in 1999 that if we vote no, it'll mean no for a very long time.
In the discharge of these duties, I will be guided by the counsel of their elected parliaments.
But I think the next opportunity is now, because clearly it's a big change of circumstance. You can't get around that.
It is a big change of circumstance, but is it a big issue for most Australians?
Well, again, time will tell. I think this is an enormous watershed. It's a very sad time, but it's also a time when people will give thanks for this extraordinary woman's extraordinary reign and extraordinary service. So, you know, I think there's going to be a period of reflection and focusing on that. And then I think Australians will say, okay, you know, the Queen is dead, long live the King, but do we really want to have a British monarch, a British aristocrat, as our head of state?
As loved as the Queen was, there is no doubt Charles has inherited a monarchy tainted by scandal and discord. While matters abroad may be troubling, it's the issues at home that pose the greater risk.
He will make sure that those who in any way undermine the credibility and honesty and image of the monarchy are cast out. He'll be ruthless about that.
At just 4, Charles was with his mother when, on her coronation, she was first presented to the world as Britain's young queen. All these years later, he was with her again as she made what would be her final appearance on the palace balcony.
Regrettably, it comes as a result of the death of your parent, which is, you know, not so nice, to say the least.
His is a destiny tinged with sadness, but waiting almost all his life to fulfill it, Charles is perhaps the most prepared monarch Britain has ever had.
And I had the most terrible trouble in keeping, you know, he had...
In Queen Elizabeth, he certainly had an extraordinary guide. The bond between master and apprentice, between mother and son, growing ever stronger as the years mounted.
Your Majesty, Mummy.
This double act comfortably at peace with each other.
And if I may say so, Your Majesty, thank God the weather turned out fine.
But now as king, Charles will be on his own, confronting the controversies that cast a pall over the last years of Queen Elizabeth's reign. The disgraced Prince Andrew, stripped of his titles by the Queen earlier this year, will not be given a second chance by his brother, according to unauthorised biographer and investigative journalist Tom Bauer. Along with allegations of sexual abuse which the prince settled for an undisclosed sum, the friendship forged between the prince and the pedophile Jeffrey Epstein while he was alive is judged to be an immovable stain.
Charles made absolutely clear that Andrew is out. Andrew has destroyed his own reputation. Charles has always disliked Andrew's ex-wife, Fergie, the Duchess of York. He hates vulgarity. He hates ostentatiousness.
The decision by Harry and Meghan to separate from the royal family and to continue taking public potshots at the monarchy and Charles is a more painful dilemma for the new king.
I thought my family would help, but every single ask, request, warning, whatever it is, just got met with total silence or total neglect.
The family split is heartbreaking when you're reminded of how close father and son once seemed.
Harry, Harry, Harry! Mama, you can't touch it!
Can you see a future role for Prince Harry?
I think Prince Harry, like Prince Andrew, has cast himself into the darkness. I think that he is now very happy in California. He has dug his own grave or built his own mountain, whichever way you see it. I think the British, although they loved Harry, and he was by far the most popular of the royal family, have become extraordinarily disillusioned by his criticism both of the royal family, and of his father, of his grandmother, and by his antics.
Oh, really? Please.
Boom. So both Harry and Andrew will be wiped out, airbrushed out of the story of the British royal family.
Do you expect King Charles to be as popular as Queen Elizabeth?
Well, you know, a change is always difficult, isn't it? And nobody likes change. But I suspect King Charles will become exceedingly popular as time goes on.
Lord Ivor Mountbatten, the King's second cousin, believes Charles' eventual popularity will be born out of respect as a man who, even as Prince of Wales, was prepared to make hard decisions that directly affected family, like minimising the size of the monarchy.
The public perception, particularly after Princess of Wales died, was there were too many hangers-on and that the monarchy really did need to slim down. So all the wider family and cousins, like myself and my brother and all our cousins, you know, were sort of sidelined, which is absolutely the correct thing to do.
I solemnly promise so to do.
As king in waiting for the past 70 years, Charles' ascension to the throne may not offer a fresh start, nor may he ever win the public devotion bestowed upon the Queen.
May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
But passionate about the environment and the underprivileged, he may just be a surprise sovereign, bringing modernity and relevancy to the monarchy.
Charles is a very intelligent and educated man. He's got many failings, but his determination to ensure that the monarchy survives, I think, is there, and he can do it. Of course he can do it. He is determined to succeed. He's had to wait a long time for it. He's not going to blow it now.
Good evening, welcome to 60 Minutes, and welcome to London. I'm Tom Steinfort. It's not often a 74-year-old takes on a new job, but such is the lot of King Charles III. The new monarch has officially been crowned, and now the near impossible task of filling his mother's shoes begins. Polling has shown that not only was Queen Elizabeth immensely more popular than Charles, so too is his son William, his sister Anne, and even his grandkids. But it's not just here in the UK that the new king needs to win people over. In Australia, the R word, republic, is being uttered once again. Tonight, though, those closest to His Majesty want the world to know why he and Queen Camilla will succeed. A moment in history. King Charles III, accompanied by Queen Camilla, emerging onto the famed balcony of Buckingham Palace.
Getting a moment that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. And
This is the dawning of a new era. Those opulent crowns, heavy not just with precious gemstones, but also the extraordinary weight of expectation. Under typically miserable London skies, the traditional flyover had to be scaled back to a bare minimum. Prince Louis's wave, appropriately looking more like windscreen wipers, as the slimmed-down royal family watched on.
thousands of people who have braved the rain and are here to witness an historic moment.
But King Charles would have liked what he saw, his loyal subjects braving the conditions en masse, coming out in huge numbers, a crowd even his much-loved late mother would have been proud of.
I think there was definitely a huge outpouring there and love. Because I've always thought about Charles that he's quite popular, and I've always thought he would be a better king than people gave him credit for. It's not the Queen. You know, it's not the same thing, but it never would be. Who could live up to that?
Valentine, I feel woefully underdressed.
Tom, nice to meet you.
You look glorious in the morning suit. Come on in. Valentine Lowe, the royal correspondent for the Times newspaper, was inside Westminster Abbey. and lucky enough to see every remarkable moment up close. It is pretty extraordinary to see these great traditions that have lived so long.
The basis of the coronation ceremony goes back over 1,000 years, and you just felt you were just part of history. It is pretty fantastic. The music was fantastic. I mean, the bling. I mean, just the robes that the king wore were just stupendous, and it was a good show.
The service was steeped in tradition, but also with a nod to the changing face of modern Britain. Perhaps the most eye-catching of arrivals was the new heir to the throne, the Prince and Princess of Wales, along with their 3 children. Young George also watching his own future play out before him. Kate and Charlotte were radiant in matching Alexander McQueen gowns and seemed to revel in the occasion.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
But it was William involved in perhaps one of the most iconic and heartfelt moments of the day, swearing allegiance to his father and sealing it with a kiss. It's a very serious traditional service, but I think we got pretty close to some real emotion and real affection there when we saw William approach his father.
Yes, I think that's right. I mean, they've had their moments, they've had their ups and downs, but I think that speaks to the fondness, the genuine fondness between the two of them.
The most reverent part of the ceremony saw the king dramatically disrobed and taken behind decorative screens to be anointed with holy oil, a tradition deemed too sacred to be broadcast. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The St Edward's crown, encrusted with 444 rare gemstones and weighing more than 2 kilos, adorned with great precision on the head of King Charles III.
God save the King! God save the King!
Was this destiny fulfilled?
Yeah, this is him fulfilling his destiny, a destiny he's waited for a very long time.
Unlike most of us watching a coronation for the first time, Charles had seen it all before, when his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, was crowned in 1953. Looking back, it's striking just how young the new monarch was at 25 years of age, and even younger still was her son, only 4 years old. This time around, he's 74, the oldest sovereign to ever take the throne. Yet it might be a 5-year-old that many people remember from the occasion. Prince Louis yawns and waves, causing a sensation for royal watchers.
Prince Louis is enjoying this, I think.
This is the biggest day of King Charles's life. After 7 decades as heir to the throne, now finally he is front and centre. But there were just as many headlines about the members of the royal family who are today pushed to the sidelines.
The dark cloud that's always lurking on the horizon. What's going to happen about his family relations? What's going to happen about Harry?
After months of speculation about whether Prince Harry would even bother attending, he arrived at his father's coronation alone, without his wife Meghan and their children, who decided to stay home in America. Relegated to the 3rd row, Harry's view was, at times, obstructed by a feather. And while the heir and his family left the Abbey in a magnificent horse-drawn carriage, the spare did a runner, all by himself in a black BMW, straight to the airport.
he was out on a limb, I thought. And it just spoke volumes, the fact that no sooner did he leave the service than he was in a car and off to Heathrow to fly home. And it just underlines what I think most of us have long believed anyway, that we're still a long way off for there being any outbreak of peace in the very fractured relationship between Harry and his father and his brother.
It's almost sad to watch.
Yeah, no, it's heartbreaking to watch. I mean, because of course Harry, although he's been quite annoying quite often, he also has a huge amount to offer. And the same is true of Meghan. And I thought she might have been the woman to do that, but instead she cut and run, and I think it's a great shame.
Also barred from the iconic balcony display was Prince Andrew, frozen out of the family following his friendship with pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. With no role in the ceremony, Andrew watched his brother become king and Camilla crowned queen from the far edge of the third row. What do you think goes through Andrew's head when he's sitting there watching it all? His brother's becoming king and, his sister gets a very prominent role and yet he's cast aside.
I think I would hate to speculate what goes through Andrew's brain, because I think often not much. He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. He's a man full of delusion.
The delusion being that this will all blow over.
That it will blow over and he can come back. And that people might want him and that he might have a role to play. He doesn't have a role to play.
But there was a humble violinist from Sydney entrusted with a very important role on the day. Madeline Easton had the honour of being the only Australian asked to perform at the coronation, packing her bags for London for the biggest show of her life.
It's unbelievable, because we haven't had a coronation in 70 years, have we? And so this is the first one in most people's living memory. For me, little old me from Sydney, to be a part of that, it's really hitting home now. And it's getting more and more staggering. Yeah.
Madeline does have experience on her side when it comes to entertaining the royal family. The virtuoso is a member of the Baroque soloists and Monteverdi choir, which King Charles is not just the patron of, but also a huge fan. He pretty much has them on speed dial. What's it like playing for the royals?
Oh, they're great. They're wonderful. I've played for King Charles many times, and we used to get invited to St James Palace to play for his dinner parties.
If I have people over at my house, I'll put on a Spotify playlist, but he can call you up and put on a big show.
Well, he likes live music. I don't know if you know this, but King Charles is one of the biggest classical music fans that there is. He really cares about it. He needs it in his life. He said to us once at Buckingham Palace, classical music keeps me sane. He said it calms me and it grounds me, and he needs it in his life.
So you're key to the king's sanity?
Apparently so. Oh my gosh, I never thought of it. That's clearly not true. But hey, for 1 minute, I'll let myself think that.
Beautiful music, perfect soundtrack to a day the king will never forget, and neither will Madeline.
I think I've had one of the best days of my life. I mean, how do you top this?
It sounds like you're floating.
Yeah, I just didn't want it to end. I was like, oh my God, there's that person. Oh my God, there's that person. There's Joanna Lumley. There's Emma Thompson. There's Stephen Fry. Oh my God, there's Boris Johnson. It's almost like the music was so good, it transcended the occasion itself. And I just thought, man, I am proud to be here.
With Madeline's job done, it's now time for Charles and Camilla to get to work. So what exactly can we expect from our new king and queen?
Nobody in the history of the British monarchy has come to the throne better prepared.
It was absolutely a privilege to be part of history and of something which only comes along once in a generation. It's a huge moment for anyone who's going to play a part in it.
When King Charles calls, Scott Fessenden Wood answers. And really, who in their right mind could refuse an invite as glorious as this one? It's a bit pinch yourself moment.
It is a bit pinch yourself moment, absolutely. I told my dad about it, and he has a memory of watching the coronation on the tiny screen of a rented television, the only television set in his street when he was growing up, crowding into a room to catch a glimpse. I don't think he ever expected that his son one day would be in Westminster Abbey for a coronation.
Scott represents the King as Britain's High Commissioner Designate to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. But prior to that, the pair was almost inseparable, having spent 4 years travelling the world together when Scott was Charles's Deputy Private Secretary.
Am I allowed to borrow one or two things? Am I?
We can do this now.
Okay.
On every royal tour from 2017 to 2021, you'll see Scott hovering in the background, never too far from his boss's side, there to sort out any issue, no matter how big or small.
Is there anything that jumps out at you that kind of paints a picture of the kind of man Charles is?
My mum got very sick. She had cancer, and it all ended very quickly in the end. But he'd never met my mum. He had no idea who she was. But he took time, without me knowing, to send her a very long and incredibly thoughtful handwritten letter, which arrived in the hospital with a big bouquet of flowers, just saying how very sorry he was to hear that she was so unwell, and to say that he hoped she would find some comfort in those last few days in her pride in me and the rest of my family. But it's just one small example of the sort of thing that he would do time and again.
Yeah, so for so many people in the public, they see that stony face of the royals, but you've seen the big heart.
I think that's right, because that's just who he is. It's not an act. It's not something he puts on for the cameras or for the audience. It's just who he is. And I think he believes that for the monarchy to endure and to be relevant in people's lives, that connection is really important.
You eat your vegetables.
He's a workaholic. I mean, he's literally a workaholic. I remember the Queen taking me into his study once to talk about some charitable venture, and the desk was piled high with papers. We couldn't see him anywhere. And eventually, a head popped up. He was there, but surrounded by so much paperwork.
As a long-time friend of Charles's parents, Giles Brandreth has had many an afternoon tea with the royal family.
But unlike a true Brit, I'm not having any milk.
He says the new King and Queen are just infatuated with each other. Interestingly, in a way, Elizabeth and Philip were not.
Duke Venerable once said to me, love consists not necessarily in gazing into one another's eyes, but looking in the same direction. But what you get with Charles and Camilla are a couple who do look into one another's eyes, but also are looking in the same direction. They have common values.
So Camilla's almost the yin to Charles's yang.
I think they probably like all that. I'm not quite sure what that means. So I'm not going to agree with it in case it's something a little bit unsuitable. But they do
beautifully.
They do complement each other. They work tremendously well as a team.
Giles believes Charles is trying to position himself as a man in touch with the plight of the everyday person, typified by his choice to have a comparatively modest coronation, if you can call it that.
Was there some significance to the fact that this was, I guess, a pared back celebration?
2023 has been very different from 1953. This time it was curtailed, I think partly because the king was sensitive to times being tough. You know, a cost of living crisis, not a time for extravagance. And I think there was a bit of a tension between us, the people, saying, give us the spectacle. We want people in bearskins. We want marching bands. We want all that. And the king saying, let's not spend too much money.
Thrifty king.
A thrifty king. A thrifty king. And thrifty with the guest list. I felt very honoured to be invited because there were only 2,200 people invited this time, whereas last time there were 8,200 people. So a quarter of the number of people. This is history that passes before us.
Giles has no doubt the biggest challenge ahead for King Charles is staying relevant, a task not made any easier by the fact he's the oldest monarch to ever be crowned.
He's going to be 75 in November. But because he comes from a long-lived family, his mother lived to 96, his father to 99, his grandmother to 101, he could well be king for 25 years. I think at this time in the story of the world, to have a steady, older person as the head of state is quite comforting.
But it's funny when you put it like that, you know, who starts a new career at 74?
Yeah. and you've got to make it work. The reason I think it will work and does work is because we know enough about King Charles to be, confident. Nobody in the history of the British monarchy has come to the throne better prepared.
You can always find a Prince of Wales pub wherever you go.
Scott Fessenden Wood was a right-hand man for Charles when he was the Prince of Wales and agrees the King has been training all his life for this moment.
It's great to be in that ancient abbey for that.
He's proud to have played a small part in the making of the man who's become His Majesty. Well, what does it mean for you that your old boss is now your king?
It means a lot, actually. It means a lot because I was very proud to work for him for those 4 years. No one in my family had ever done anything like this before me. My dad was a driver. My mum cleaned other people's houses when I was growing up. I sort of stumbled into this by an indirect route. So to be in the Abbey, to watch him being crowned king, really quite an extraordinary thing.
But not everyone is celebrating the new king. In fact, in Australia, is the monarchy about to be dethroned? The Republican movement has had to kind of play the long game on this one. But do you feel like the next few years is the time to move?
I feel like tomorrow is the time to move.
Tens of thousands of people lined London's streets, even in the pouring rain, just to catch a glimpse of the coronation. Most of them were celebrating our new king and queen, but some turned up purely in protest. It shows even on the monarchy's best day, loads of people still want to get rid of it, especially in Australia.
I think the way that Australia is looking at the crown in its entirety is very different to during all of Elizabeth's reign, because there is a movement within so much of the Commonwealth, which is having it now. It's really, open slather, if you like, and everyone can question the crown in a very different way. I'm excited to see how Australia responds to it. Let's talk about Australia becoming a republic.
Craig Foster is the new co-chair of the Australian Republican movement, pushing to scrap the monarchy.
Foster tried to take the shot on his own little
He proudly captained Australia for the Socceroos, and now is standing up again, believing the leader of our country should be one of us. You've got a lot of passion for our country. Could you be our head of state?
Listen, this is enough. This is enough for me.
Because I was thinking, it's quite a step from King Charles to President Craig. Craig's a good Australian name.
Well, you know what? So is Ashraf, and Hakim, and Mustafa.
This is the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
You think that it's got to be an Australian face that is the face of Australia?
Exactly. And 50 years ago, that face looked like mine. In 2023, it doesn't have to. It doesn't in federal parliament anymore. It doesn't in our institutions. It doesn't in business. It doesn't in sport. And it shouldn't at the head of the state.
It's 24 years since Australia went to a referendum.
One for Australia.
To decide if we would become a republic and choose our own head of state.
Australia will not become a republic on the 1st of January 2001.
In the end, the No campaign won with 54.9% of the vote. Republicans claiming in defeat that the majority of Australians did want to ditch the monarchy, but just couldn't agree on the best model to elect a president.
The point of the matter is about committing finally to this last step of maturation of any former colony, and that is standing completely on our own and being represented by ourselves.
For Craig, it's a no-brainer. Australia should be governed by Australians, not some foreign overlords that landed here in Botany Bay a couple of hundred years ago.
And in fact, it's just the natural journey of Australia.
He wants another referendum in the next 5 years and claims this time around it will succeed. Do you think enough people care about this? Because, whoever our head of state is isn't going to fix the cost of living crisis. It's not going to sort out the potholes on someone's street.
Yeah.
There is a sense out there of who gives us stuff who our head of state is?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So perhaps you should ask that to all the First Nations leaders who are talking about what colonisation means to them. You know, perhaps we should talk to the multicultural communities who might say that, well, we've been here for decades and decades and decades, but we're still not represented in all the institutions across the country. And so it is important to big sections of Australia. It's incredibly important. It's also incredibly important to many of us who believe that we have to stand for something, both here and on the international stage.
Of course, saying goodbye to any long-term relationship, it would be a wrench and there would be sadness.
As a long-standing friend of the royal family, it's no surprise Giles Brandreth loves the Crown.
Is it Charles Street?
It's appropriate, isn't it?
Giles believes that sometimes it's a case of better the devil you know. But he says if Australia did choose to become a republic, the King would still want to retain the close bond between our countries that'll always come with being part of the Commonwealth.
I'm not saying they're looking forward to it, if it happens, but I'm saying that their view, they are there to serve. If people in Australia feel having King Charles as the head of state has some value, is attractive, let's keep going with it. And I love the idea of you having our king as a shared bond between us. But if you don't fancy it, Tom, we're easy about that. We can take it.
You're big enough and strong enough.
We're big enough and strong enough. If I were you, I'd hang on in there. And you may find, when you get the substitute, you may think, oh, they were quite, no, they actually were ready. He was a decent guy, and that Camilla, she really was. And William and Catherine, and the law, and the George and Louis, they're also loved more. We've lost them. We don't have them anymore. You may miss them. But I'm sure they'll still come visiting because they love the Commonwealth and they love Australia.